What's going on, guys? How's Chicago?
What's up?
How you doing?
It's cold.
I figure.
Yeah, it's actually crazy nice here right now. You know, it's tornado temperature, right? You know?
Yeah, St. Louis just got smashed. Amazon. So where I work, the warehouse next to our warehouse got hit, which is the Amazon warehouse, and like 6 people died, which was
over in Edwardsville.
Yeah,
terrifying.
Absolutely terrible to hear. Yeah. And I heard actually that maybe some supervisors or something told them that they couldn't leave, and now that's going to be turned into a whole big mess. But that's one thing I don't miss about the Midwest and why I'm in warm weather for multiple reasons, even though I came from South Florida having to deal with hurricanes. So I'm also very happy to not be dealing with that.
Yeah, hurricanes way worse than tornadoes.
Oh,
I mean, I feel like unless it's a really bad tornado, you can outrun a tornado. It's really hard to outrun a hurricane.
Yeah, you're not getting away.
Yeah, I remember that time that you tried to leave Florida with everyone else in Florida, and it took you something like 36 hours.
36 hours of me driving and getting stuck. It was like 18 hours. Yeah, well, 18 hours to get out of the state of Florida, and then Atlanta is always gridlock. So when I got there, it was just mayhem and just parking, taking my dog out on the highway. Like I had 3 dogs, and that was. I forgot what hurricane that was. Irma, I think, in 2017. So that was my welcome to Florida. But besides that, it was beautiful.
It was cool.
Yeah. And
it's going well, man.
Yeah. So I know eventually Wellest is going to end up in Austin because that's where everyone's ending up right now. And that's what I'm crossing my fingers for at least. And I got to be careful in this. Dave, I don't know. Do you call Chris or do you call him Skowera as well?
I call him Chris.
You call him Chris? Okay. So I'm going to be pretty mindful in my head because just for people listening, Chris Skowera and I went to college together, and he was actually my pledge father. And so we've known each other since 2007. And then Dave, this is actually our first time talking. How long have you guys known each other?
Since
what year would that have been?
Freshman year of high school.
Freshman year of high school.
We went to different middle schools. You know, synced up, I don't know, gym class or something, right? We're in like a lot of the same classes and stuff. Chris and I both were big fans of not going to school. You know, we're literally senior year, we're like competing for who missed more days. Like we're like studying for AP tests and like, you know, I don't know, just had other stuff going on. It's like parents didn't care that much, we didn't go, whatever. So like, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, we hung out a lot.
So we hung out a lot. Yeah, so we hung out a lot. So yeah, we hung out a lot then, and know each other since we were like 14, 15.
Finagled credits for doing out of school work and stuff like that. So, I mean, because at that time I got my first coding job when I must have been 16 at the time, designing websites, you know, pre-Google era for a telecom company locally that was creating online price quoting tools. And this was like revolutionary at the time. So I got probably 2 or 3 semesters worth of credit for just showing up and getting paid, probably a little underage, to go work and code these websites in the basement of some telecom building. It was fun. That was a good experience.
And other than, you know, needing to show up because there were like attendance rules for playing sports and stuff like that, you know, it's like as long as your grades were good, my mom didn't care.
That was
pass.
Yeah, that was exactly how I was. My last semester of high school, at least, I mean, I was only there to play baseball. I had colleges looking at me, but it was just to show up. And I remember like the principal and stuff stopping me and like having me actually skip class on their behalf to just go get them lunch. Not that anyone listening to this should do that. Like, you should go to class, because the weird part about like you guys talking about that and me talking about that is that I would say that we're decently excelling at what we're doing. And I don't, I don't want to say that was part of it.
No, I mean, I think everything in life is balance, right? And the sooner you learn that and understand that the structure of the rules that get put in place are oftentimes pretty flexible. You know, they're a suggested place to start from, how I like to think of it.
For all the young listeners out there, stay in school.
Yeah, Chris.
Don't listen to the 3 of us and skip school because we said so.
This is my life advice.
You still got to get the grades and, you know,
But it's
everything's a negotiation.
Yes.
But I'm going to wrap it up in a bow because it's all that outside the box thinking where you guys don't believe the existing macro tracking and nutrition tracking led to the creation of Wellest. Well, we'll get into that. The purpose of having a podcast like this is just bullshitting, just a back and forth conversation. It's going to be maybe more, unintentionally gravitating towards Dave just because I don't know him as well, and Chris, we know each other pretty well, but we'll do an even mix. So Dave, tell me kind of your background, because what we're going to do is we're going to talk about each of your backgrounds that led you to the creation of Wellest, which I'm going to go ahead. Let's take a step back right now. Can you just summarize what Wellest is?
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, we'll start with like what it was meant to be and what it is today. Okay. So, ultimately, its goal is to democratize health information and access to anyone on the planet. Okay. So this is there's misinformation. There's the detox tea and the this wrap and that thing, and you must be keto, or no, carbs are the devil, or no, they're not. And this thing's, everything is demonized and everything is zealotry. Okay. So it was okay, the information is known. There are people out there who are being successful with health. So the information is there, but we got to get it known by everybody. And even when it is knowable, it's hard to kind of make it actionable, right? Because it's what is the answer for a person? It depends. Okay, so it was all about how do you get that dependency chain of it depends, what to do, when, and how, and all that. So democratize health information, access, and execution for everybody. That's the mission. Okay, so now where is it now? Well, we're on that road, and what we've done is we've said, okay, well, the things that most people struggle with in their health is body composition. So in a very almost kind of bodybuilder or physique athlete type of coaching model, saying, well, let's be a personal trainer. Let's be a personal trainer from a diet perspective, supplementation, fitness. What type of stuff do you need to be doing? And so there, it's really about creating a coach. And here we basically built an AI that does what a really good, high-end, very expensive, highly trained, and experienced coach does for those things. And so we have a product which is a basically body composition AI coach. It's prescribing nutrition, activity, and then it's managing those things within the user's lifestyle. When can you be active? When can you not be active? When can you eat? What can you eat? All the different type of nutrition restrictions or things you might have. So it does what a coach does it with AI, and does it within an app on your iPhone so that people can have easy access, 24/7 access. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And obviously much cheaper than having a professional on call, someone who can do this for you 24/7, but with an app instead of a person.
So it's
we're on the road to that in terms of democratizing the access, and we've made it, just so far in that overall journey.
Yeah, and it's like MyFitnesspal on steroids, at least from my personal use. If I were to tell people, or when I do tell people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think MyFitnesspal is the perfect, great example baseline of this. They do a really cool thing. One of the things I like the most about their product is when you sign up, it talks about, okay, you have a goal, right? Get bigger, get smaller, stay the same. And then they use some honestly old research at this point, but some research about, okay, given your demographic information, height, weight, gender, age, the few pieces that they ask for, they make an assumption about what your energy output will be. Therefore, they create a certain kind of energy surplus or deficit. And what I love about the product is it displays that to you all the time. So of all of the products that are out there still to this day, one of the oldest ones, they still are highlighting that concept of energy balance. It's when you open the app, the top thing on the screen is you consume this much, you output this much, and you're left with some net amount. And they're trying to get you to focus on the net to create the deficit or the surplus you need to make a body composition change. I'll be honest, almost none of the other products do that. And so we took that idea and exactly like you said, just gas it up, right? Put that on steroids and then explode the information. Show the user everything that's within that, right? And there's a little bit more we'll talk about. There's some nuance to body composition goals. One of the unique things we do is that body composition is a 2-factorial thing at a minimum, right? You're saying I need to change my muscle mass and my fat mass. Of course, they're interdependent, but you need both things to change body composition. Right. And so we are the only product literally on the planet that manages both, that you can have both goals, work on both of them simultaneously and kind of, eat that problem from both sides and ultimately attack it both ways simultaneously. So you're going to get faster results in both directions, ultimately getting leaner, stronger, etc., faster by using Wellest than anything else. So exactly, it's that. It's one of the things I love the most about MyFitnessPal. And we just said, great, gas that up, make it the best it can be, and that gives you an idea of just like top line, what is Wellest trying to do.
And we're trying to meet a range of folks where they are. So if you don't know how to set a body composition goal, we used a whole bunch of information from the National Institute of Health to look at your demographics. You put in some body measurements, and then we set some levels. And we try to bring everybody to what we call the Wellest zone. And that's where your body composition, the amount of muscularity, and the amount of body fat are in a range where overall mortality rate is shown to be the lowest. So we're trying to, get you up to a certain muscularity, down to a certain body fat for most folks. And if you're not sure what that level is, we'll help you with it.
And
so you can pick athletics goals or health-based goals, and we'll help you set those.
And that's all dependent on like genetics as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have, obviously you and I are roughly the same size person, but you have a different genetic background than I do. And so we'll ask you about that if you're willing to give it to us and factor that in, because there is research that shows different genetic groups grow at different rates and have different predisposition to certain disease risk factors and ability to grow, gain, lose muscle and body fat.
Yeah, and again, I don't know if this is like a being PC or not thing, but we're the only product in the space that talks about racial phenotype, right? Yeah. But it is a key component of the demographic information and the research that's available about what type of risks do you have and what things are you predisposed to, and are you going to, gain or lose or whatever fast and slow. So, again, my point is we'll ask the questions that need to be asked to get to the right answer as fast as possible. Not that, like I said, we're not trying to not be PC or anything, but just like there is research, there's real data and information that tells us what things matter and don't, and we're going to attack the things that matter to get the results we want for users. So, to Chris's point, there's going to be some things that we do or ask or say that are going to challenge some people maybe, but it's all based in the science. Again, what is the CDC, WHO, National Institute of Health, Harvard and this place and that, we are not subject matter experts in that stuff, okay? We are product people, we're engineering people, right? We're business people, and we're trying to take all of that, let's say, untapped knowledge that's there, that's coming out of research institutions and coming out of other companies, and turn it into, like I said, kind of that, it depends. What does it depend on? How do we apply the information to you? That's a matter of process, engineering, product, and other alignment. So we're experts in that, and that's what we're doing is taking that other information that people have and turning it into a product that an everyday person can use and take advantage of.
I absolutely love that. I love the humility. I love the research. I love the customization. And there's a big movement, at least from what I've seen in these companies reaching out, of just full on customization rather than this bullshit one size fits all kind of pocket. And then to your PC point, sorry, but fuck that. I mean, it's it has to be science based, and it's all about facts. I had just put out a video about body positivity being bullshit, essentially. And
I watched it. I loved it. I was hoping we'd get an opportunity to talk about it for a second. So
yeah. And I got overwhelmingly positive feedback from the video, and it was just all based on science and your blood work, and everything doesn't give a shit of your race, your size, your feelings, because what it comes down to is whether or not you're healthy. And I think that's what people need to be more considerate of, rather than this, oh, you're African American, so you're predisposed to this. Or myself, I have tan skin, and when I take my micronutrient panels, I have to take extra vitamin D. I try to get outside, but because of my history and the evolution of the Polynesian side of me, I need more sun and more vitamin D than the average person. So everyone's different, and everyone needs to take it into consideration. And, I think Chris and I have spoken to this. It's almost that, I know you guys are trying to make certain things in place to account for whether or not someone answers that, but those questions are so important for what you guys are doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they are.
What I just want to say, what I loved about the video you did there was, again, one just like the brutal honesty, right? Like, let's be real with people about this. And it's so interesting that, like, when you look at the research on this stuff, and you can see that there's a lot of people who are, let's say, young enough, okay, and that's a factor of a bunch of things, but young enough where their obesity, okay, has not yet fully disturbed their metabolic panel, their blood work, and those other things, right? It is causing liver damage. It is causing pancreas damage. It is doing those things, right? But it hasn't yet, let's say, broken through, right? The A1C isn't bad yet. The resting glucose isn't bad yet. And somehow that person, let's say a 20, 25-year-old person saying, I should just be happy in my own skin. It doesn't matter what I weigh. And then they actually do go get blood work. And the doctor's like, well, I mean, lifestyle factors and blah, 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 but like, you're good now. That's literally in the research. That's called metabolically healthy obese. MHO. It is, and it's a thing we talk about in Wellest. Like, when we categorize you based on your statistics, if that's what we think you are based on age, gender, race, measurements, other statistics, that's the thing that it pops out and says. Like, when we are classifying you, we say, hey, you're probably a metabolically healthy obese person. You will appear on blood work to be healthy because it hasn't yet happened. But when you look at the research on that, within 5 to 10 years of a person being classified as metabolically healthy obese, they become metabolically unhealthy obese, the MUHO. Okay. And so it's going to happen to you. And so I love what you said about that. And if anything, any person who can refute that, I'm sorry, it's a matter of time. It's just look at the clock, watch the minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, years click. You're going to be unhealthy. I'm sorry. That is the science. That is the research we have. So everything else is, like you said, a little bit of bullshit.
And it's important to be honest here because the stakes are high. It's your life.
Yeah.
I mean, it's speaking as somebody who has been down that path of being metabolically unhealthy, obese.
Fried chicken in bed.
You know what? It's highly underrated. I think everybody should do it at least once.
You should earn it. You should earn it.
Mac and cheese.
Right.
It's solid. Popeyes in particular.
I had the wrong guy on the podcast. This guy, he's like bending the rules for skipping class, eating fried foods in bed.
Now let's talk about health.
Everything's a negotiation, right? There's balance in everything in life.
Well, this is a big thing that I want to explore on like my channel. And one of the reasons I only have so much time. Like, I just started this podcast, doing my other content, and then I want to start a vlog series called Barbells and Barbecue, because I want to show people that yes, you can be healthy, you can go out and you earn the meals, like eating a beef rib from Terry Black's here in Austin.
It's interesting that you say the word earn, right? So I listened to your podcast with Chase the other night. That was an awesome conversation, by the way. So really, really cool to see first episode of that. And you were talking about earning a meal. And it's interesting. In Wellest, I'd say that we don't even use the concept of earn, but we definitely bring that math equation to the forefront, where it's a negotiation. Our goal is to get you to that healthy spot with the least amount of activity possible, because let's be honest, you really can't outrun a bad diet. Your active energy is so small compared to what you eat, and your, we'll call it the uncontrollable energy burn, which is like the slow changing dimension of your basal metabolic rate and those type of things, that you just can't outrun it. And so what we try to do is we show you the consequences to the math when things happen. Okay, so you want that beef rib, go for it. Do you want to defer it to your ETA? So like your goal gets a little bit further away. Mm-hmm. Do you want to balance it by doing some extra active energy? Mm-hmm. Or do you want to look at your nutrition over the next week and see, is there enough excess that you could pull from maybe tomorrow if you want, mm-hmm. And rob today? Now, there is a whole segment of the population that struggles with binge eating, right? Binge and purge. And we recognize that for sure in the product. And so we built a way that you can say, listen, I had that beef rib and I don't want to run. I don't, want to take food from tomorrow. Mm-hmm. I just want to eat my beef rib and move on with my life. And that's totally fine too, because, moderation, balance. It's better to have you showing up again tomorrow, mm-hmm. and not feeling shame, right? This is the other half of that body positivity thing is, you are who you are, right? The fact that you're showing up every day to make a change, to have that health, that's what we're really after.
Yeah, I would say that was a huge change this year, actually, right? As we were looking for how people were either being successful or not being successful with executing the product. And one of the, I'll say, unintended consequences of building it the way we did is we built it to be this AI coach where in the real world, a coach that you might have might see you, let's say, a check-in once a month, couple of weeks. Maybe you're like coming into the peak of a competition, you're talking to them every day or something like that, right? Where they could say, let's adjust these macros or this activity or something like that, right? And so there's a lot of people there getting coached, 3 months, weeks, whatever. Wellest is doing this constantly, immediately, in the moment. Every moment you complete a meal, you complete an activity, you do more, you do less, you get this macro composition instead of that macro composition. And it is rebalancing that over the entire next week, all the time, right? And that can be difficult because if you're not a pro athlete, if you're not someone who, takes their hobby of health and wellness very seriously, that's a lot of moving pieces and parts and variables that you feel like you're managing now. And from the start, what we did is we gave you the ability to lock in anything that you want, and we don't touch that. So if you say, you know what, I'm going to go through my plan at the beginning of the week and I'm going to say exactly these activities are going to happen, exactly these meals in this way, these recipes, these compositions, you can lock anything you want, and then only the other things will update. And then this year we took it further, and as Chris said, we now gave you the ability to defer, to do it on a per event basis. You can only defer the excess or the underage or overage. So it gives you, I would say, infinite control to be coached, but to be coached and be held accountable to the amount that you want or you're comfortable with consistently, right? There's some global settings for that, but also kind of in the moment. And so I would say, if anything, the thing we're struggling with the most right now is it will do anything. Okay. It's a killer, right? But that's a lot of stuff now. I gave you all the options, right? And so helping people figure out, well, what is the way I want to operate the tool? What kind of coach do I want Wellest to be? Is a tricky thing that I think we're working through right now is trying to figure out how do you help the user get the kind of coach that they want.
Did we mention that this is just an app, right? On iOS and Android?
Yeah, it's just an iPhone app.
Yep. Yeah. So it's something you're going to download. It's something that you're going to pay monthly. By the way, people listening, I have no relationship with them besides knowing them as people. It's just, I'm very excited for what they're doing because I talk to so many people. And one thing about me that I forget is I've been doing the macro tracking and getting really deep into nutrition. And I even have my undergraduate in biochemistry where I have some sort of knowledge of how certain things are uptook in the body and how things are processed. So I don't understand when people don't understand what a calorie is or what a protein, fat, carb for your macros or your micronutrients or what a simple, the simple principle of a caloric deficit of expending more energy than you're eating to lose fat, because I see so much bullshit out there of things that people can take that are magic. And what you guys are doing isn't magic either, which is something should be clear. You guys have absolutely.
What's the buzz line? No magic, just science.
Yeah, we have a little cute,
one of our marketing,
little pithy, marketing things. But yeah, it's no magic, just science.
Exactly. Where's that? That's awesome. I'd put that on a T-shirt.
Well, maybe we will put it on a T-shirt. Right. It is panel 2 of the onboarding tour.
Really? I'm not kidding you. I would put that on some sort of T-shirt, and just because it needs to be screamed from the rooftops. I've never heard that phrase. I don't know where you guys got it, but I love it.
That guy.
That's awesome. So let's go back now that people are now familiar with what Wellest is. Dave, what's your background?
Yeah. So do we want personal health journey? We want,
what time were you born?
Where was I born?
No, I'm joking.
It was a cold. It wasn't actually cold. Interesting story about that. So I was born very late at night, first thing in the morning, and I was born on my grandmother's birthday.
Oh,
really? And she told my mom, she's like, well, you better hold out. Right? I don't care if he's coming today. You got, a couple of hours, suck it up, lady. You gotta, hold out so that we got the same birthday. So it's great. We had the same birthday. And then
I never knew that.
Yeah. So the same birthday as my grandma. And then, just the world's a crazy place, right? My first son has the same birthday as my other grandma. And so we were having a chat about that when that was going down. Anyway, it's weird, right? But just, world's a crazy place. So yeah, that's the birth thing. Okay, so why Wellest? Let's go to the personal side first. So I grew up, my dad was not an athlete, which is kind of crazy because he's like 6'3", 260 pounds. He's a mountain. Okay. He could have been anything athletically. I mean, but just, he didn't value that. He didn't value the physical, right? It was all about what can you do mentally. Okay. And so everything was, grades and school and reading. And, every Saturday I'd get up and it was like, Dave, write me a 5-page, thesis paper on some topic. Like, yeah, that's a fun, Saturday morning for a kid. So, I was just, and he was highly religious. So I'm like, I read 4 different versions of the Bible by the time I was 12 or something. It's just, it's like, that was just kind of the history. So there was no athletics. There was no going outside and being active and that kind of stuff. And so, I'm kind of a bigger guy naturally. And I'm like a fat kid, just to be totally, completely honest. And I hated it. Okay. Like, I obviously wanted to be smart and do that stuff, sure, but I envied my friends and people at school who played sports and who were out and about and doing stuff and whatever. And obviously it became very foreign to me, but I wanted to. Right? I was excited about it. Long story short, years go on, and eventually my parents were divorced when I was little, and years go on, I'm living with my dad, and we decide that we don't want to live with him anymore. Okay, whole big thing goes down, but ultimately we go and my mom gets custody of us. Okay. And we move back in with her, and she's, I'm upset about a bunch of stuff. I'm 12 or whatever at the time, going through all this. And, she's like, well, what would help? What do you want to do? What can be different or whatever? And I said, well, I've always wanted to try something athletic, but I don't know what to do. And she's like, well, whatever you want to do, I'll support you. It doesn't matter what it is, but just, give it a try. And if you like it, great. And if you don't, try something else. And so me being the kind of, again, you're saying rule breaker, ridiculous personality, perhaps, I was like, what's the hardest thing I could do? And the hardest thing you can do as, a middle schooler is wrestling. So I joined the wrestling team. I was, I think, 5'6", 200 and some pounds. So I was a fat kid. I'm not joking around. I was like a very, very fat kid. And within a season, I went to, I think, like 170 or something. I lost like 30, 40 pounds as like a little kid, just being active for the first time and all that stuff. But I loved it. Okay. And then I was like, okay, now I'm going to play football. I'm going to do track. I'm going to do whatever I can do to be active now. That was like my whole world. The whole thing changed, and I got really focused on that. But at the same time, like I said, I didn't know anything about nutrition. My family didn't. I didn't. I was looking back on it, everything wrong, right? I wasn't recovering from exercise. I wasn't fueling myself. I was like, it was a disaster, right? Just a train wreck of nutrition. And it kind of continued that way for a while, okay? But through high school and stuff and like playing other sports, I got into it. It was an interest, but it wasn't like a professional thing. It wasn't like I'm going to become a coach or something. It's just like, I need to know about this so I can be good at the thing I've chosen to do.
To be fair, for where you were, because this is when our lives overlapped, so for where you were pretty expert for a high school kid in the pre-Google years. I remember going over to your house, and you're like, okay, all right, I got to eat. And I'm like, oh, okay, so like, what are we having? I'm like a kid. I'm like, okay, great. We're going to like have like pizza or something like that. Dave opens up. He's got his bag of frozen chicken breasts that he weighs out because he's following the Atkins.
I think I was doing Atkins. I was cutting for wrestling.
Yeah, cutting for wrestling season. So he's got it, and he's like portioning out his chicken and his broccoli. I mean, this is like before any information was like readily available. He's like just digging through like medical research papers and like whatever he can get his hands on to try and figure out the science of it.
Yeah. So anyway, went to college, and I pursued what I thought I was going to pursue the whole time kind of professionally. Was I really love computers. I'm a technologist guy. And so I went to school, and Chris and I geek out about this stuff because he was like trying to teach me how to code, but I'm a terrible coder. I'm better at like the math and the science part. So anyway, I went to the University of Illinois, started with, originally I was going to do computer science. Then I was like, nah, that's coding. I'm terrible at that. I'm going to do computer engineering. I got there. I did a year of that. And I was like, wait, computer engineering is just another kind of coding. People don't know that, but it's just more coding, but a different language. I was like, again, nah, bro. So what else can I do? So I went to electrical engineering. Did focused in semiconductor physics, which I loved. I love to this day. I had a dream of working at Intel and like being the CEO of Intel and making chips. Okay. And so anyway, I interned at Intel while I was there, graduated, went to Intel, worked there for a bunch of time. loved it, killed it, did supercomputer stuff. I mean, all kinds of, while I was there, I led the chip release for the first supercomputer focused chip that Intel did in like 20 years. And with that chip, we won the #1 computer in the world. So the fastest computer on the planet was using this chip that I helped program manage, which was amazing. And like with that, I won like Intel's top award for blah, 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 whatever. So I was like, well, that was all really cool. I've done the high computing thing, high performance computing. I want to do something else. And I want to do consumer electronics. So I started interviewing at Google and Apple. Ultimately got a gig at Apple, which I loved. I loved at the time, and I was like a fanboy then, and it just got worse while I worked there. So like looking around my room, you'll just see like literally if Apple makes it, I own 2, right? Because I'm just like nutso about it. Worked there for a few years, loved it. I mean, best job of my life. People were incredible. I'd go back. You know, if Wellest doesn't work, ultimately, you will find me at Apple, right? Like I love everything about it, love the people, love the experience. But despite the watch, and we can talk about the watch a little bit more, but despite the watch coming out, I had this compulsion, right? Is like all of that stuff I talked about leading up to like my health journey and wanting people to know more and me trying to pursue my own health stuff and all that, like, I just felt like for whatever reason, there's all of this technology out there. But instead of all the smart people going in, like building a thing that solves a massive issue like health or climate or name a thing, I felt like we're just making like another social network to steal from the last social network to make the new social network more social than old. Like, I'm like, that's where all the smart people are going because that's where the money is. And I just felt was like, okay, there's got to be something that can be done about that. And that kind of got, I don't know, that idea just incepted me like a year or two into Apple. And I mean, at that point I started talking to Chris about it. And and that's kind of where you like re-enter. I know that's like not your health journey, but like kind of re-enter the thing. So let me pause there. But like, that's how I got to this. Like, it was always kind of on my mind. It was always a thing that I was like worried about, concerned with, but it was like a hobby, right? It wasn't, I didn't think I could make any money doing it, right? I didn't think that would be like a professional thing. So I went and pursued other stuff. But in that time, learned about business and product and engineering and you know, all that kind of stuff. And so that's where, like I said, it's like apply that expertise that we used for a bunch of other stuff to now try and bring this other this other problem to life.
So you were only at Apple for a couple years. So you got this awesome.
I was there for 3.
You were there for 3.
Yeah.
You got this awesome gig there, and you were in Palo Alto, right? Or Cupertino?
Well, they're in Cupertino, but yeah.
Cupertino, yeah. And then you decide, I want to work for this awesome company, one of the best companies to work for. Screw this, I'm going to go start my own stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty dumb looking back on it, though.
Remember, everything's a suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, again, so everyone's probably familiar with the MacBook Air, right? Okay, the MacBook, all that. So the last redesign of that, okay, but the first machine on the planet that had USB-C in it, okay, that was my first product. So USB-C was the thing that I program managed at Apple. A lot of people don't know this because Apple doesn't highly publicize it, but in the consortium, the USB consortium and Thunderbolt and all that stuff that's related, Apple actually contributed 1 fewer members than Intel did, and Intel is the leading sponsor of that. So Apple was like number 2 by a head to applying the people, the energy, the resources, the time and money and effort to turn USB-C into a thing. Okay. And I was, leading that. So
you mean for everything but the iPhone?
So why is it not? Well, I can't talk.
Still not allowed to talk about that.
I still can't talk about it. But so then that became, other special Mac projects. And so, like, for instance, the Touch Bar, rest in peace. The chip that does all of the security enclave processing and the storage management and all that stuff that's in those other machines was my project. And all of that laid the groundwork for what we have now, the M1, the M1 Pro, M1 Max, all those chips that came out of that work. And that was basically my project when I left. And it was like, I kind of saw that writing on the wall of like, if Apple keeps moving this way, that'll be my life's work. And that's great. And that would be amazing. And God bless them for continuing all that. And it would have been an amazing thing for me to be a part of. But I'll also say this. I left and it still got done. It still got done great. It's still the best thing on the planet. So, they don't need me, right, to do what they're going to do. Wellest, it was only going to exist if I if I did it. So like I said, I was kind of compelled in that way. Like, yes, I could stay there and do amazing world changing stuff and make money and all of that. But like, it wasn't the mission, and I felt compelled by the mission. So yeah, but yes, looking back on it, I mean, I'm broke relatively, you know, I don't have the same house I had in San Francisco. And, you know, I mean, like life has changed a bit since then. But like I said, I was compelled, and you got to follow your heart sometimes. So.
No, that's exactly, again, why I want to have these conversations, so people get a little peek behind the curtain of who is like busting their ass, who's making these crazy, what other people consider crazy life choices, because I have a huge passion of talking to entrepreneurs and investigating. Like, one of my favorite books, well, Steve Jobs by Walter Isaacson, we're talking about Apple, like that book is incredible. Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. If you want to talk about someone who was just completely nuts and insane, there would be no Nike if it wasn't that guy behind there trying to push and create that brand. So it gives people a little peek about who my money's going to, which is, to me, is great. Like, I want to know, like, are they, like, what kind of person they are, what kind of passion, and you guys are just exuding passion right now of the project you're doing, and just everything you've said. You can see why you have such a passion for it. And it's just really good for people to hear. There's like another podcast, like From Scratch, that I absolutely love. So it kind of took some inspiration of that just to really get this going. And, you know, I love it. By the way, I had gotten my Mac, and it was the last one with the Intel chip. And I think you might have told Chris to, like, maybe get me to wait. Yeah. And I didn't, and I have such remorse right now, especially so when I'm doing like these 8 to 15 minute max videos of editing, it's not bad. But now that I'm doing these podcasts for extended time, and I have just hours of footage that I'm trying to scroll through, it has become a nightmare.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, the M1s are crazy.
So Chris just got, well, I don't want to like take us down this road too much, but so I got the one that you got, right? The 16-inch Intel, right? I had that one. And what I told Chris at the time was like, hey, just let Wes know, it's not known, okay? But the rumor, the belief, the expectation is we're talking like 6 months, a year, something like there's going to be something really, right. The rumors. I'm like, the rumors are, you know, things go the way they're going, right? There's going to be this unbelievable like world beater in like a year. I don't know if he can wait. He's got to do what he's got to do. But like a year from now, maybe there's going to be something crazy. And so then the M1 Pro, M1 Max, you know, 16-inch drops. And that's what's sitting on my desk right now. And it is a monster.
That's I'm going to end up getting one. Like I'm so impatient with everything. I just want, like, I'll sometimes buy the thing I don't want so I can have it today.
Yeah, I feel it.
Yeah,
I mean, you guys have legitimate use cases for this type of power. Wes, you're like processing videos. Dave's doing all of our graphic design, you know, and all of our UX management. So he's got these monster design files open. I love it because I just cannot help but leave literally 100 to 150 Google tabs open, Chrome tabs open at any given time. And I'll tell you, it's like butter. It's like a hot knife through butter, switching between my 19 desktops as I switch between each one of my workspaces. It's not really a legitimate use case, but I love it. It's amazing.
I mean, it allows you to keep all of those things in flow, right? You didn't have to close it down. You'd have to shut.
I'd probably get more done if I stayed focused on one thing at a time. But
I don't know. You know, multitasking, right? You know, focus is a suggestion.
Yes.
I'll end up getting one. Okay, so Chris, I already know your background, but let's talk about your journey when you were actually attending, and how you went down this path to end up where you are now here at Wellest. Because you, I gotta tell people, like, out of all my friends, you were always like professionally at the top. You seem to always be landing roles, like just working your way up and excelling at a point that was like inspirational to me, because I was kind of like on your coattails as far as our friend group of getting to where I'm at today. So you want to talk about, you can start in high school or college?
That. Yeah, I appreciate that compliment. I don't know that, you know, it's funny. I look at a lot of guys we went to college with, and There's a number of them. I don't want to just blurt out a whole bunch of names. I don't know if they want to be named, but a ton of guys that quietly did a lot of things. So I don't know if I was just louder about it or not.
No, that's bullshit.
I was particularly. No, I don't view myself particularly remarkable compared to anybody else.
No. Hold on. Stop. Because I think that's bullshit, because I know we have the same friends. Like, there's no.
we do. Yeah, some of them are very, very great.
Yeah,
some of them are.
I love them. I love them to death.
People. Some of the most interesting people don't know what they want to do with their lives, and so you got to value them for who they are. Right?
No. This guy's tiptoeing. So I was very honest with what I said. They're not like at the level professionally of how you excelled, or like even where like I'm at. It's just the truth. Like, you don't have to like sugarcoat it or anything.
Oh, I don't feel like I'm sugarcoating. I mean, I look at.
Of course you don't.
No, I genuinely look at these guys, and I am so impressed at even if they, because this is an interesting thing as a manager, right? How do you choose, or even running a company, how do you choose how to promote? How do you choose who to put? And oftentimes they're like, well, that's the most productive individual contributor. I better make them a manager.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then they fail, right? Because they've never learned how to manage a team.
Yeah.
And not everybody wants to manage a team, right? And there are organizations that really recognize that and lean into that. So they give you the individual contributor track, they give you the manager track. And so looking at our friend group, there's some folks who have just chosen to pick a path that's maybe less publicly celebrated, but yet they really, really enjoy what they're doing. And so I appreciate that they recognize that they know what they want and they go at it. And they know that that doesn't always mean the flashiest promotion or the biggest title. So it can be measured many ways. So I'm meaning that very genuinely. But yes, I recognize that I got more titles more quickly than some people do.
Yeah, let's talk about titles. Yeah.
But it also came at a cost. That I worked a ton of hours. My personal backstory. Like, got married, got divorced. Right, that's part of the story. That's part of the Wellest story, actually. Because during that whole process, I came out of college, worked really, really hard. I was convinced that that's how you set up a great life. You're like, okay, so you work really hard, you make all the milestones early, and then you retire early, and hopefully you haven't killed yourself by then from working too much. Not like literally, but you know what I mean. Like, work yourself to death is what I'm saying.
Right.
And that didn't really work out. Turns out you need a little more balance in life. And so along that path of moving up I went to, like I said, started doing some coding, went to college, thought I was going to be an engineer, decided I didn't really love the opposite path of Dave. I was like, nah, I'm going back to coding. So did that, but actually ended up in IT, so more implementations, special project creation and management, and sort of rode up that path through logistics in particular. So heavy trucking, warehousing, medical logistics, and all that. But along the way, the thing that actually led me to Wellest is less about the professional track and more about the personal track. So I was working way too much. As I was going through the divorce, I picked up some really unhealthy habits, eating too much, stress eating feelings, drinking too much. And I ballooned up to 250 pounds, like just really, really unhealthy lifestyle. And I knew I wanted to change that. But, you're talking about how you forget that people don't know what an energy deficit is, right? I didn't know at the time. And so I think I talked to you maybe once. I think I probably talked to Dave once, and I was like, okay, I'm going to hire a personal trainer. I want to turn this around. I don't know what to do. Spent a whole bunch of time Googling, couldn't decide who to believe about what, because there's so many opinions out there.
Dissenting, yeah.
And so
seemingly both valid, but also dissenting opinions about stuff. And it's like, how do I break that logjam? Do I have to go read the PubMed now? Like, how do I know?
And so I'm sitting here, and like, part of me knows if you're working out all the time, you need to refuel your body, but I'm also trying to lose weight. How do I balance this? And I just settled on, all right, I'm going to eat a ton of chicken. And so I ate a bunch of chicken, and I ate a whole bunch of eggs, and it worked. But I kind of ended up I don't know, almost classifying, using another one of those terms, skinny fat, right? So I lost a ton of the body weight, which is really good for my system, but I didn't replace it properly with muscle. So I ended up very skinny without a whole lot of definition, but it worked. Got down, felt so much better about my life and everything. Got a new job, moved to a different city. I was on the path, but I moved to Chicago. And if you've ever been to Chicago, we got hot dogs, we got pizza,
we got all the eats, man.
We got Italian beef, we got out of this world Mexican food.
Yeah.
And I ate it all. And so, just like so many people do, when you go through a huge transformation, you bounce, right? So by moving to a new city, I'd broken my workout routine. I had broken in my diet routine. I now had to rediscover all those things. And so I made it all the way back up to 230. So I had gone down from 250 to about 190, lost about 50, 60 pounds, gained back about 30 or 40 of it. And so this time, Dave now has been for a year or two at this point. Every time he's like, hey, come hang out in San Francisco. We'll go to the wineries, quote unquote. And then while we're standing around in his house, he's like, hey, step over to this whiteboard while we talk about this crazy idea I have. And he's co-opting our hangouts to talk about his idea for Wellest.
Absolutely.
So I called Dave and I said, that spreadsheet you made, that's the premise for this thing. I need help. I don't know what to do, but I want to lose this weight, and I want to do it in a healthy way, and I want to become more capable too. I want to become stronger, feel like I'm not hurting from going up the stairs. It sounds terrible, but that's really where it began. So he basically did Wellest in a spreadsheet for me and helped me learn how to figure out what foods can be adapted into the things or into the different macro targets, and then how to progress that over week. And so within short order, I was back down to 187, I think. So about 33 pounds, 43 pounds down in about a 6-month period. And it was a healthy weight because I put on muscle simultaneously at the same time.
Yeah, you're more capable.
Yeah.
Yeah, after that, yeah.
And so that
there was some recomposition as well, which was great.
Bells start going off in my head, and I start going, man, this feels amazing. This my life feels measurably different, and not just because I like the way I look in the mirror. I feel better. I sleep better. I move better. I feel like I'm unlocking a part of my life that I had lost. We got to figure out how to get this to people, and so we talked a bit more, and I kind of moonlighted, just helping him a little bit on the side, offering opinions, not really being officially involved. But that only lasted so long before he wore me down. And
I was wondering, how is he going to say this part of the story? What is he going to say?
No. The reality is there's a need for this type of product in the marketplace. And so Dave and I just kind of went back and forth, all right, how do we make this happen? Can we find some investors who believe this story as well, to the point where we've got runway to make this a thing. And so we did, and we were very, very lucky to find some partners early on who really believed in Dave and in the story and in the mission. And so I jumped a little over 3 years ago from full-time as a VP of technology to working with Dave. And hilariously,
man, was that a mistake on your part?
It was a leap for all of us, right? So Dave is doing this. He's about to have his first son. First son is born on my last day at my last time in a full-time corporate job. Mm-hmm. And I got on a plane the next day, and I flew to their house, and I took care of their cat.
while we're in the hospital.
While they're at the hospital,
with
we're having their firstborn. God bless your wife. We would not be here without supportive partners.
By the way, this was the week. Yeah, this was the week before Thanksgiving too, right? And so, Alicia, my wife, all upset. We like to do a big Thanksgiving thing, and she's like, oh well, probably not gonna be able to do it this year. Chris is coming out. You guys are trying to get the business, really kicking right now. You're trying to get deep into the development thing, and we just had our son, and I'm not feeling up for it, whatever. And I was like, yeah, who cares? Life happens. It sucks. When we get a better handle on things, we can do a nice Thanksgiving next year. And Chris comes and just basically cooks Thanksgiving for all of us. So he's like helping, he's like watching the cat, and he's helping. You know,
Dairy free, lactose free, just like you can do in Wellest, right?
Right.
Give ourselves a quick plug there, like
right.
Respect the allergens of a new mother.
That's right. So yeah, I mean, you know, he comes in and totally. He's just like, you know, he's the third set of hands. He's the extra adult. Doing the work, pulling the all nighters, doing the coffee fueled development sessions and stuff, getting it going.
And so Wellest was born in the basement.
They're kind of born
of Anderson Street, San Francisco.
Yeah.
And I lived in the guest bedroom behind it. So.
Yeah, that is such a techie story. The only way that would make that more techie would be if you guys were in the garage doing this.
That's where the gym was.
Otherwise, it would have been. The gym was in the garage, so this was where the office was at. So yeah.
No, that's amazing.
Same floor though, if it counts for anything.
Right. It was close. Yeah.
I love
halftime spent in the gym has.
Yeah, one thing that's to be clear to people is that everyone goes, a lot of people go through this journey of where do I start? Like right now we're towards the end of the year, so there's a lot of people that are just destroying their bodies because they're like, well, January 1st, I'm going to turn my life around, and they're not going to know where to start. And they're going to do everything that you guys have talked about as far as I'm going to go find a personal trainer. Some people are going to unhealthily cut their calories, try to be like, I'm just going to eat salads and stuff and just do things the completely wrong way. So I know it's going to take a lot of marketing. You guys aren't out there as far as like a common name, but everything I hear about what you guys do and what I've been exposed to, and even people like larger companies and some of your competitors I won't even name have reached out to me for potential partnerships. And I've just been like, nope. Because I know what's coming down the pipeline. And as someone who's used just about everything out there or willing to try, like nothing touches this. Even though I did beta tests that one time, and how many bushels of blueberries did it want me to eat?
We were working on the recipe solver at the time, and I would say that I if I recall, it was substantially large, and I think my response was, "Please don't eat that many blueberries. We can't afford a loss."
I mean, this is debugging in the whole process. Everyone knows if you're going to be dealing with an app, and this was years ago at this point. But it's awesome to be part of the process that you guys are building too.
No, we appreciate your feedback. And, it's interesting that you talk about our competitors, because this is, when I think about where we are in the space, right? So you've got some folks who are really well-known household type names when people think of the word diet or weight loss, right? And then you've kind of got the segment we're in, where there's some folks really trying to attack this problem of how do I help people pick a good goal? How do I help them set macro targets? How do I help them match their food to it and adjust as they make progress, right? And there's a lot of people cutting that from a few different angles. But if you look, and as we're looking to sort of emerge from the basement, if you will, literally and figuratively, we started looking at the marketing and looking at the volume of people searching for us, our competitors, the words like macro targets compared to weight loss, diet, those big household names you think of. And we're at a phase where, we're all in like some small corner, even though we're competing with each other, the reality is that we can all grow tenfold and still barely be competing with one of the big names. So there's tons of room for growth here, tons of room for expansion. And I just love that there's a whole bunch of people trying to attack this problem personally.
No, you guys don't have to. It's not Harry Potter. They're not Voldemort. We can talk about competition. You know what I mean? It's fine. But yeah, absolutely. The problem here is that Weight Watchers has failed, if you will, to make everybody healthy. And that's no offense to Weight Watchers, and that's no offense to people who have used that, and a lot of people who have used that, and every other, MyFitnesspal. Beachbody, go through, just name all those products, all those companies, right?
It's not sustainable.
I love all those
Weight Watchers with the points and stuff. Every time I've seen someone using it, and it's more geared towards like the female population, it's so like, I'm like, how are you never going to not give these people your money in order to follow these points and to have this sustainable lifestyle? Like even with your app, you guys got to be aware that at a certain point, someone should be educated at the point, except you guys do have features like recipes and stuff that I think is going to be pretty awesome to have. But as far as the macro tracking, they're going to not need that day to day at some point.
Yeah, and we talk about that as part of the journey and trying to figure out how do we let people come and go when they need us, because we don't want you to feel like you have to cram 3 months, like a year into 3 months, because you're like, I don't want to pay for it past that. It's like, okay, well, do what you can do for a couple months and then leave and don't pay us. That's fine. And just embracing the fact that these things happen in waves sometimes, and trying to look at the product cycle to get people healthy, and not make money the ultimate goal of like getting them onto the subscription and keeping them locked in there.
Yeah, the way to make money in the short term is to deliver the result. Okay, that's really what it is. Let's cut all the other BS. What are people paying for? The value proposition is, I came in, I wanted to XYZ. I wanted to lose this much fat and gain this much muscle. Can you do it? That's what you're paying for. All this other stuff is honestly bullshit, right? I get a personal trainer. I get a nutritionist. I get this thing. I get that thing. You're paying for someone's time to talk to you, educate you, hold your hand through stuff, hold you accountable, whatever. But what you actually want to pay for is the result. Did the blood work change? Did the scale change? Did my skin get healthier? Are my nails not cracking, right? The result. Are you healthier? No one is actually selling that.
Yeah.
Right? There is no, results guaranteed or else. And I will just say that is basically our product, right? Like if you have high compliance to the plan, okay, whatever high means, right? Like you show up, right? So you're highly compliant to a plan and you don't get the result, I will give you all your money back. Couldn't care less, right? Like you're paying for the result. No one else will do that or say that. I will do that and say that. I'll say that right now. I'll keep saying it every day, forever, for life, okay? The goal of Wellest is to get the result. And a beautiful thing that happens about that, Wes, exactly what you talked about, is you come in and you say, I have a goal that's yay big, whatever that is, right? I want to lose, 2 pounds of fat and gain 1 pound of muscle. Well, you know what? Right diet and exercise, you probably get that done in like a week and a half, depending on who you are, right? Great. Use the product for the 2-week free trial. Cancel your membership and bounce. Go on your beach vacation. You got a little toned up for your beach vacation. Beautiful. Wonderful.
That's a win for us.
That's a huge win.
Because we moved overall health to the result.
Right. And if you're a person who comes in and says, man, I have really gone nuts here. I've been off, for a while. I got to get these, 43 pounds off. And by the way, that's the fat I want to lose, but I also want to come back and gain some muscle there. So he actually lost more than that much fat because he came back and gained 5-10 pounds of muscle or whatever to get more muscular, more fit, more capable, as he was saying. At the same time, well, he was able to pursue both goals at the same time, but it took many, many months, right? But when he got done with that, you're absolutely right. Chris was now educated. And what was brilliant about that, a couple of things happen when a person becomes educated, when they have a system, a process, and a flow that they've developed. Maybe they don't need our product right now. Maybe they don't need our product ever. But what they've taken away is they know that they now have a capability, right? And I know you know this. Once you've learned how to manipulate your weight, right? You know how to gain muscle. You know how to lose fat. You know how to diet and exercise, and you have some of those tools in your tool belt. Well, if you get a little fatter, because I just had, 2 kids and I'm building a startup and I'm pulling the all-nighters and whatever. I'm not focused on my own health, to be honest. I'm focused on everyone else's health, right? How is my wife doing? How are the kids doing? What's going on with the rest of the family? How do I make this product work for other people? So I'll be honest, I'm not really focused on my health right now. But you know what's great? I know that, especially with the use of Wellest, but even without it, I have the knowledge and the experience, the aptitude and interest, et cetera, that if I prioritize it, I can get it done. So I absolutely agree with your point, Wes, that like people who come and learn from, use Wellest, that's going to set them up to maybe never need another product ever. And so that would be an amazing thing if people came in and they churn out because they succeeded with the result that they wanted and they never come back. God bless them. I hope they tell their friends and family and the other 3.5 billion people on the planet that need help with body composition that Wellest is the thing that will get them the result. But I also know a couple of things. One, time is a fickle bitch, right? Time will age you. You will need different things next week, next year, 5 years from now than you needed right now. And you hear that all the time. Hey, when I had my kid, I did this, and this, and I lost the baby weight in 6 months. But now I'm on baby number 4 and I'm doing the same stuff. It's not working. What's the deal? Well, you're not the same you anymore, right? Oh yeah, when I was back in college and came out of school or whatever, and I had to like lose some weight so I could be fit, so I could go pick up girls at the bar, I did this and it was really effective. Now I'm a dad, right? Or now I've been working professionally for 5-10 years and I can't do that stuff anymore. It's not as efficient. It's not as effective. What's going on? Wellest comes in again and now recalculate all that stuff, reevaluate you as you are now in this situation, and there's going to be a new plan. It's not cookie cutter. Even you are different now, right? And so I think knowing that people can safely come back to the information they learned from Wellest and use that every day in their life, they can safely come back to the product in a new situation or with new goals and also be effective there, or that can be referred to family, friends, and other people that need what we've got, a result for health. I mean, the market is infinite. So the idea of someone like aging out and not needing us, God bless them, perfect, awesome, amazing. But know that if you ever need that information, you've got it. And if you ever need a product again, we're here to help. So I'm not stressed. I couldn't be less stressed about that than anything else going on for sure. People being successful, and that's going to be money. I'm not worried about it.
Man, you got me jacked up for this app, man. I keep waiting for like to download it. And the whole time when you're thinking about that too, about like not needing it, I'm someone who cycles. So I constantly go up, like I build muscle, cut fat. I tend not to use macro trackers when I'm bulking because I'm pretty good at that. I can eat. But I always come back to things like Carbon Diet Coach or MyFitnesspal when it comes time to cut. Like in a couple weeks, it's going to cut. And I gotta tell you guys, I just screwed up like my bulking. I just did my first modeling gig for a brand shoot, and in the middle of, I say that I was literally a model.
Why did you air quote? Yeah, why was it not modeling?
Because I don't want.
Did you take pictures with your shirt off, and did you get paid?
Yeah. So I do that for my own sake because I felt ridiculous. But to schedule something like that in the middle of a bulk, I was like, "Are you serious? Like you couldn't
tell me what you ate the other day."
Oh, dude, you probably. I haven't seen the.
It was some like quesadilla, like as big as an elephant.
Yeah, I wouldn't have. I would have had trouble plugging that into Wellest app, and because there's a place here called Man vs. Fries, perfect. And it's like a very well done Taco Bell. I guess it's there's a chain in like San Diego and here, and the quesadilla, it was called a heladilla, and it was like this big, and the whole time I'm eating it, I'm like, this is not good, but like it was so good.
It's so good. But it's so good. It's a lot like that fried chicken in bed. I highly recommend that.
But I mean, I earned it, and then I woke up the next day and I looked fine.
Yeah.
And then you would plug it into the app, and it would recalculate and do everything else for you. I would have felt better if I would have seen the numbers. I'm a very numbers oriented person. If I would have had Wellest with me, like giving me a nice little hug, a little digital hug, and being like, "It's gonna be okay. You're gonna be fine.
It's okay. You can burn through that this week."
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that is another thing we're kind of talking about. The competition. One of the things that's taken so people are probably like 3 years doing this. What the fuck have these guys been doing in this basement this whole time? Right? It's not that hard. It's a spreadsheet.
I've seen it firsthand
4 years ago. Right?
Yeah.
I totally understand. So, but really the difficulty was this. Okay. We started off doing what everyone else is doing, or we were doing it earlier or something, whatever. But the point was that we were like, oh, it's just a spreadsheet, but you need to like build other rules and give some flexibility. And as we started pulling on that thread of flexibility, right? How do people actually live with this stuff, right? When we started pulling on that thread and started talking to people about it, it was like, oh my God, the complexity explodes. Right. So like the amount of rules, and we can look at RP diet, for instance, or carbon diet you mentioned, Avatar, the new one, Macro Factor, all of those, right? All amazing products, right? Love all of them. I follow all of those guys, all great influencers, all super smart, many of them subject matter experts, maybe not product people, but anyway, all awesome, brilliant folks. Love all the products. If I wasn't building Wellest, I'd be using one of those, you know what I mean? For sure. So no disparaging there. What I find and what I think makes us so different is what you were just talking about, that flexibility, okay? The flexibility to say, I plan to run a marathon, therefore what should I do? I plan to eat a dozen donuts. Therefore, what should I do? I did run an unexpected marathon. What happens now? I did eat an unexpected box of donuts. What do I do now? And the ability to interact with the AI to answer those questions and then decide how to pursue the next thing, right? That's what a coach would do. You call up your coach, coach, I messed up, man. I had the helladilla. It was delicious, but what do I do now, right? And the reality is there is no coach that's going to talk to you day in and day out about every little thing that you do right or wrong. Okay. There's no one that's going to give you that hug, right? And there's there's products out there like a Noom or something like that. Again, great product for what it is, where you have a person who's going to talk to you and be like, hey, it's okay. Don't fall completely off the wagon. Don't let a one day, one meal binge turn into a month, right? And undo your progress. And that's great to hear that from another person. But those coaches have between 200 and 600 people they're talking to. 200 and 600. So like the amount of personal that's happening there isn't really that much, right? And what you needed was the ability to have better flexibility and execution on what you did do, what you planned to do, and all of that stuff. And ultimately, we built a rule-based system that could handle almost all of that. And then we started noticing it's so brittle. It doesn't ultimately deliver on the promise of flexibility with a rule-based system. And you see that, and honestly, this is the feedback I hear from RP all the time. In fact, I think it's why Carbon is doing well, is because RP is a brilliant app, but because they put so much goodness in there, it's made it very brittle. It's not flexible. You can't make it do anything other than what it does. And at least with Carbon and the new macro factor, I think there's some flexibility where you can kind of like make the coach you the way you want to be coached, like I talked about with Wellest. But the simplicity, basically you go look at their stuff and they say, ignore your activity, act as though you're never active. Wait, what? So there's no concept of net energy balance at all. Even MyFitnesspal had that freaking 25 years ago, right? That's their best feature, is they prioritize net energy. So about surplus and deficit, like you said. Of all those products, it's the only one that even talks about surplus and deficit. It's the oldest one. It's the shouldn't say that. It's the worst in terms of being a coach, okay? But at least it gets this one thing right. So when people are wondering, like, what should I use? Well, do you want a thing that ultimately says you can get bigger or get smaller? Or do you want a thing that actually attacks the problem, which is muscularity as it relates to osteoporosis, sarcopenia, performance capability, and leanness, which attacks metabolic disease, cardiovascular disease. Basically, 70, 80% of everything that kills people is due to that. So do you want a product that focuses on how much you weigh or the underlying factors that actually address health? Do you want a product that has no flexibility or infinite flexibility? So when people are like, what should I use? To me, honestly, that's why we built it this way. We're the only answer. We are the only game in town, in my personal opinion, because and there's a number of other things we haven't even talked about yet. Let's say the number of magic tricks in our bag is pretty deep.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna get to like everything and stuff.
No, yeah, we don't have that kind of time. Yeah,
no, not at all.
You said something great too of attacking the underlying features, and something I discussed in my body positivity video was I used to be someone that wanted a lot of just like how I looked in the mirror, and I would just go in, I would lift weights, and I had a much higher body fat, underlying conditions unknown, didn't take like any sort of micronutrient panels. And what I say in the body positivity video for people who haven't seen it is I started working out and adjusting my lifestyle for health, and how my body looks now is incidental of that. Like I look this way for, because I am trying to holistically attack health, like increasing my mobility, a better diet. One thing that I shouldn't eat is bread, especially like really processed bread. I break out on my face, but it's so good. I need to fix it.
But it's so good.
Yeah, I need to fix that problem. And I know I should. You were talking earlier about like why, skin conditions and stuff that people will surface level. Like I went to a dermatologist and she had stated, hey, you put Head and Shoulders on there and it'll get rid of it, instead of, hey, idiot, if you quit eating this, your skin will clear up as well. That'll probably be even better because it's underlying condition that you need to treat. Like if your skin is breaking out, it is not smart. But overall, like, yeah, attacking that, like, you're going to lose the body fat. You're going to lose the visceral fat. People don't even like consider how harmful that is. And
that's actually the thing that kills you. Right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And then you're going
and again, to address that, you have to address it metabolically, right? I mean, honestly, like, let's say you need to lose fat, you want to look good. I mean, you can get liposuction. What is it? $5,000-$10,000 procedure.
That's a
the riskiest
Band-Aid.
thing about it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. You've changed nothing about your behavior. And by the way, and I don't mean to disparage that, or even the other thing I say, like bariatric surgery, other things like that. No disparaging. That is like you and your doctor have worked out that this is the right option for you. I understand that. My fear, the terror that I have about that is what it's effectively doing is saying, we're going to physically force you to not eat more than a certain amount. And if you do, you will get sick and possibly be hospitalized. So we're going to basically threaten your life with every time you overeat. Okay. And what it does is it effectively forces you to starve yourself effectively. Okay.
Yeah. People are malnourished from it.
It will result in weight loss. But the problem is, the stomach will adjust. If you continue to even slightly overeat over time, you will re-engage the ability to eat more. And you haven't changed the habits. You haven't learned about macronutrients. You haven't learned about being more active. You haven't done those things. And in fact, not being able to eat is now going to keep you from being able to recover from the exercise and other things that you need to be doing to actually develop those habits. So, if it's between that and dying of morbid obesity, hey, absolutely, work out those risk factors with your doctor, do that. But every time I hear about that, I shake because it just scares me. It's so terrifying that person could go through all of that and maybe come out the other end worse for wear and not actually be better, not actually be healthier, despite some let's say transient weight loss.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get into, we've heard Wellest. I hope people listening have learned enough about what it is. By the way, when's it going to be? When is it? Now is the time the product is ready to go. Is that even a thing?
I mean, is a product ever really ready? It's all suggestion.
So as
when's the minimum viable product available?
Yeah. So anyone listening or watching this, can tell that we are a little nuts, okay? And one of those crazy things is, I think, being perfectionists, right? For ourselves, for our product, but also in terms of is it really delivering all of its promise, right? Can people extract the value that it has, that we've talked about, that we've developed? And I would say, like I mentioned earlier on, the struggle is really that it's there and it does all of this stuff, okay? But we find it, and users who are working with us, in beta testing, like you said, find it too difficult to use, okay? Difficult to understand, difficult to harness the power. And so where we're at right now is really creating additional flexibility where the user can say more about themselves and their lifestyle to make it more integrative, right? But as I said, I think we're already head and shoulders above other products. It's just there's more to go, right? There's even more that we could do to meet the user where they are. And then the other thing is just helping them to kind of visualize the data, the statistics, the kind of how do I look back and learn? How do I look forward and execute my plan better by seeing that kind of stuff? So there's a lot of it's visibility, data, it's visualization, and some of those things. And then there's a little bit of kind of user experience, right? Of just, have we tuned the flow of things, right? How many screen transitions, how many button clicks, how many times you have to slide a widget or whatever to make it operate the machine. And so we're looking at ways that we can kind of test and tune in those other things. So is it ever done? No. Do we have literally an infinite roadmap of cool stuff that we want to do? Yes. But mostly at this point, it's just working with folks to help them harness it in its current state. And that's really, I think, our focus right now. So it is available. It is ready. You can go get it. I was
going to say, the short answer is it's in the iOS App Store right now.
Yes.
I think,
and again, we think it's great, and we think it's great.
Yeah.
But we want to do better.
Yeah,
That's why we're not out marketing it hard, because
that's what I was getting at.
We're in the phase of trying to make sure that when you need to turn on your turn signal, we haven't put the turn signal inside the glove box. That wouldn't be a very friendly way to operate the car.
Brutal analogy, but sure.
No, but we're trying to find these things. So we're excited to have anybody who finds our story compelling, finds the idea of the app compelling. We'd love to have you on there. If you reach out into the chat, when it says Dave and Chris, that's us. That's not a bot. That's not somebody pretending to be us.
No.
We'd love to talk to you about what's going on with you, about the app, about anything really.
Yeah, your usage, your needs. Yeah.
Yeah. So anything you aspire for it to be, jump on there. For the listeners of your podcast, if you reach out and you mention that you heard about it on Wes's podcast, we'll give you a free subscription to Wellest. So we'll go ahead and, just for your feedback, just for the conversation, we'd love to do that for everybody listening.
Let me. What should we should probably put a time limit on that or something, right?
Yeah.
So we're not going to get for eternity.
For eternity. How long is this podcast going to be?
I don't know.
Like before the end of January 2022. Say you heard about us on.
Give Wes a listen. In January, and if you hit us up, we'll give you a lifetime free subscription to Wellest, grandfathered for eternity. I'll put that on the media right now for permanent. So if you want to be an early adopter, you want to get in, you're excited about what we said, and you want to help us to make it even better and target specifically for your usage, free usage for life. Join in January, mention Wes and the podcast, and we'll hook you up.
Damn, that's badass. And you're talking about like on the bot app or the chat?
Yeah, just when you join chat.
Yeah, when you join, and it's an interesting kind of feature, but we put basically access to us on every screen in the app. The upper right hand corner has a chat. It is that shortcut to talk to one of us on literally every screen. So you're looking at goals, you're like, how do I set these goals just right? Hit us up. I'm looking at a meal, how do I get this thing to do just whatever? I'm looking at this, data visualization, I don't quite understand something. Hit us up. So literally join, upper right hand corner, chat button, hit that up, tell us, hey, I heard about you guys from Wes. Can I get hooked up? Yes.
That is.
We don't have an SLA. We don't have an SLA around a response time, but I will say that we keep very obscure techie hours, so we do respond reasonably fast.
No, one of us is awake at basically all times. Yeah.
I think that's so funny because unlike the first episode of the podcast when I was talking to Chase about his CBD company, and he said the same thing. He was like, "It's me or my partner Evan, and we'll answer you." And I'm like, "You're on the damn chat. Like, you guys don't have enough to do." But again, for someone with an outside perspective, and I should understand this, you guys are running slim. Like, it is you guys, and I mean, that's amazing. So if eventually when this whole app blows up, in my opinion, and becomes this huge thing, if you want to talk to the big guys upstairs, now's the time.
Yep.
Well, I'll I mean, hit up the chat, and I don't know. We'll put out like a code word or something where it's like, "Let me talk to Dave."
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, I'm sure some people know about this, but you can email Tim Cook, right? The CEO of Apple.
Oh no.
Yeah, he has it's tim.cook@apple.com is his public email address. Now I'm sure he's got some, only for the core team or whatever, because otherwise his email box would just be infinite, right? But every single piece of mail that goes in there gets read, prioritized, and disseminated throughout the company. I don't know if people know that, or if I should even say it. But everything that gets sent to that inbox gets read and disseminated in the company. Everything.
Really?
So if you have feedback, and so, I haven't done it yet. But yeah, I'll put my email address out there at some point. Literally, if someone has feedback about anything that we've got going on, I will hear it. So, through the chat works perfectly for right now. And eventually, we will be available to people because we legit care.
That's amazing. Because I'm gonna blast that out to people too, because I've told so many people about this app, and they're like, when's it ready? And I'm like, I don't know. And then every time I talk to Chris, he's like, I really want it polished before you use it. And I was like, I don't give a shit. Let me add it, man. I'm about to start another cut, and I'm sick. On my phone, I've been wanting to do these reviews, but every time I try a new app, I'm like, I don't like it. The only thing that I have liked as far as features, and I haven't used Wellest since it wanted me to eat all those blueberries, but I've seen firsthand Chris, I went to visit him, and late at night, crazy hours, working his ass off. And I truly appreciate that, and seeing it firsthand, like, inspires me to want to use it more. So I hope people listening understand what these guys are doing. Now, let's go into, you already said that you're not staying healthy, like, but what are you guys doing? Like, you can't be just going at it, and I know you guys are, but there's got to be something to keep you guys engaged, because if you're eating like crap and you're not keeping up with certain things like cardio or exercise, you lose focus, and then you become actually less productive. You know, it's a whole counterproductive thing when you're dedicating everything to your work. So what are you guys doing as far as like exercise and fitness and health and everything?
Well, I'll let Chris take this one, because he is our resident fitto right now. Absolutely, he puts me into great shame. So let him talk about this.
Fit is an interesting thing. So, this actually has a lot to do with the Wellest journey. Is, I'm a serial hobbyist, is what I'll call it. If something new and exciting attracts my attention, I go for it, whether I have any business doing it or not. And that means I end up with some strange hobbies in the conventional sense. So currently, I'm spending a tremendous amount of time rock climbing, trying to fit in mountaineering trips, and I signed up for an Ironman, and it's a bit of a journey how I got there. I mean, like, even let's see, would have been two years ago. Did I do the marathon? Yeah, two and a half years ago, I had never run more than 2 miles contiguously in my life. And I was like,
and so hold on, let's pause for a second. What does anyone think to themselves? I never really ran before. I'm not particularly good at it. I got nothing better to do. I'll run a marathon.
Yeah, so I was like, stretch goal, only goal, skip the 5K, let's go straight to a marathon.
I mean, you're going to end up running a 5K.
None of this 5K, 10K. Let's just go straight for the whole hog.
Yeah, let's just go whole hog. So when I get a hobby, I'm like, how do I get really immersive really fast? And so, I used Dave, and I leaned on his expertise, and I looked at, the science that we're using in Wellest, because the app wasn't really where it is now at that point to help set nutrition for it. But I learned that you can actually enjoy running, even as somebody who's not a runner. And I was like, that's pretty cool. And so I did the marathon.
This is something I always want to say when people say they're not a runner. And I've said it multiple times. You're not a runner if you're not running.
Yes. Right. So this is a key point. So I want to come back to that.
Yeah.
And so after this marathon, I'm like, man, I love the shape I'm in for the hobby that there's the different types of fun, right? Type 1 fun. You recognize you're having fun, you're laughing while you're doing it. Type 2 fun is like mountaineering fun, right? When you're in it, you're like, I'm not sure this is what I should be doing.
What do I got myself into here?
But then when you finish it, you're like, that was amazing.
Yeah, and I want to make a point too that he talked me into doing Mount Hood, which that's type 2 fun. That is, I enjoy telling people more that I did it than actually doing it.
Right. So mountaineering for me is somewhere, depending on the weather, between type 1 and type 2 fun. I just really enjoy it. But I wanted a way here in the Midwest to get better at it. So that's why I was like, well, I'll do cardio. So
for people that might not know, it's flat here.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of like mountaineering. What is he going to do? Climb up a hill?
Yeah. So I was running, and then I was like, well, what else could I do? I got an okay shape from doing this, but I better up the ante. So I signed up for an Ironman. And I should also mention that I hadn't ridden a bike, nor did I own one, probably for 20 years. And I didn't know how to swim when I signed up. And I'm deathly afraid of drowning and the ocean. And I signed up for the one in Florida.
There'd be sharks there, okay?
But
he's swimming away from sharks.
So when you ask what I do to stay busy, it was this. But I want to preface come right back to what you're saying. You're not a runner if you're not running, right? Along this journey, I had this. I felt like I was out of place signing up for this thing. Like I shouldn't be there. Like I was. But you discover that, fitness is not for the already fit. Running isn't for the people already running. It's for anyone. Mountaineering isn't for mountaineers. The mountains are there for everyone. And so if you can attack your health and unlock that capability, you can be wherever you want to be. The Ironman, learning how to swim, diving into the ocean with dolphins. You know,
Do you want to get into? Did you want to get into dolphin rape?
But I overcame that fear.
Got it. Gross.
You know, I had a couple panic attacks trying to swim long distance in the oceans, watching the ocean floor drop out from underneath me. I felt really, really helpless. Like I shouldn't be there, like I was stretching. And I had to remind myself that by being there, by being in that moment, you know, you're getting better. You're chasing something. You're learning something about yourself. Even if it's that you hate swimming in the ocean, you never want to do it again. That's a perfectly fine thing as long as you're pushing your limits. So that's what I do to stay busy. I'm out there chasing all that stuff and running around in the mountains.
And when is the Ironman?
I was down in Florida to go do it this fall, and on my last long training ride, I did a half iron, and I hurriedly put my bike together and didn't really look at the angles of it, and sort of just rode through the pain and ended up injuring myself, and I had to withdraw at the last minute. So I rolled it over. So next November I'll get another shot at it.
By the way, he tried to do it the year before. And then COVID happened. So he's been training for this thing now for 2.5 years. Like I said, he's got another year to go. One of these days, he's going to do an Ironman.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
Are you still doing the Florida one? My episode 2 that hasn't been released at the time we're doing this, Devin did Cozumel, and he said that the water. Someone set a world record at the Cozumel one. I think we talked about that. Yeah, and that was the guy's. I think his first Ironman ever. But he's a well-seasoned triathlete, but apparently the water was a lot calmer. The water in Panama City was crazy this year. I don't know if you were able to really, switch really it. Bad. Are you doing the same one?
Yeah, so I'm doing the same one. You defer over. So each Ironman is run as its own event with its own organizer. So there's a whole process if you want to like jump to a different one, and it's a big ordeal. So it's just easier to stay where you are. Cozumel constantly has fast swim times because it's a single line swim, and you swim with the direction of the tide going out.
That's what he said.
And so if you time it well with not that you have any control over it, but with the tide, the seasonal tide being very strong, I mean, they fly on the swim there. And Ironman Florida was the exact opposite. The wind came from the complete wrong direction, and essentially at the turn, it created for what was a lot of people, a treadmill where they were swimming and they were making no progress because the current was so strong towards them.
Yeah,
so
I heard
rough of it on the swim this year.
Yeah, I heard a lot of personal bests in Cozumel and a lot of personal worsts in Panama City.
Well, the worst is you didn't try, so at least they were in there.
Some people didn't finish.
A bunch of people didn't finish. Tried and didn't finish.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So you picked an easy one too.
Yeah,
smart.
No, it is easy. It's very flat. There's no hills or anything, so it makes it easier. I look
at like when Iron Cowboy, who just did 100. He did 100. He couldn't say Iron Man because of licensing and trademark.
Yeah, it's not branded, but
he did Ironman distance, 100 of them in 100 days, and I'm like, well, if he can do 100 of them in 100 days, I could probably do one. But then that's
in my life.
All right, is that a promise?
No, I didn't promise it. I said that's just me putting a thought out there. Just like
so now we're gonna grab that thought and take it.
I'm perfectly happy with the thought of knowing I could do it and telling people I think I could do it and never doing it. I think it's going to be something. I'm 220 pounds right now, bulking and stuff. I love grabbing a barbell. And even when I did a marathon, it was sacrificing time away. I just love dumbbells, barbells, lifting heavy. I've got a meathead inside of me that I just need to let out. And even when I'm doing a marathon, I have to sacrifice that of stuff that I really enjoy. So
what are you working towards then? What's the Ironman equivalent for grabbing the barbell right now?
There really isn't.
And your overall health.
So CrossFit Open comes up every year, so I need to focus on that, and I'll start cutting. It's at the end of February, so it's going to give me 6 weeks. And the thing with CrossFit, it's strength, gymnastics, cardio, intensive stuff. Being well rounded. So
is it weight class or not?
No. Everyone's out there. If anything, I've always thought it should be height class because there are way more smaller stature advantaged movements than there are for people that are even 5'10" and up, because I think the average champion has been 195, 5'6", 5'7", just because just cycling the barbell is so fast.
And that's a beefy 5'6" guy, but
like Matt Frazier, Rich Froning, those kind of guys. And I've seen some of those top competitors in person, and the way they move is unbelievable.
Isn't there a running aspect, or is there anything that having long legs benefits you, or anything? Well, that?
There's rowing's good for long legs, wall balls. Okay, that's about it.
You're like, and that's it. I'm gonna crush the wall ball, and just suck everything else.
So when you do partner workouts, even there's like male female, or usually if I'm going to do a partner workout with someone, and there's synchro workouts where you have to do all the movements at the same time. I'm usually with someone of smaller height. And even today we had to do pull-ups, butterfly pull-ups. It's, people say they're not real pull-ups, but they're a gymnastics movement, and it gets you to cycle and do more within a given time frame. And the woman I was with who did it is much shorter than I am, and trying to synchro her pull-ups, which cycled much faster, just like killed me, even doing like a small set just for photo. So it's just not for taller people. But CrossFit competitions are something. The Fittest Experience is coming in January. I failed to qualify. I had a lot of personal crap with my dog and my dad passing away in October, and my diet just went to absolute shit. So I tried to qualify. I did pretty well in a lot of the workouts. I just didn't do it. So trying to qualify, even though I'm 32 years old, and that's retirement age for these CrossFit athletes, is something that I'm working towards. But there's always something else, like, eventually you'll talk me into doing the Shasta or something, and like getting back on a mountain. Or I do believe an Ironman would be something I want, like in the future, when maybe I want to take some weight off of my frame and work towards something that's like, it's not low impact, but carrying around a lot of weight isn't something I want to be doing all the time.
Yeah, something that a lot of people don't really, know or realize. It doesn't come up that much in population, but people who are big, regardless of what makes them big, fat or muscle, still have issues with cardiovascular disease, right? Hypertension and that type of thing. Being big requires blood pressure, right? So even if you're all muscle, if you're big, and by the way, this is an interesting, again, kind of a weird plug for Wellest, but big is a proportion thing, okay? Big is relative to you, okay? And so, for instance, look at any other kind of product that looks at this or thinks about this, and muscularity or muscle is measured in lean body mass, okay? And so you say, I want to add a pound of lean body mass, right? That is interesting, sure, but it doesn't consider what that will look like or how it will enable you to be more performant, okay? And the way that it should be measured is, interestingly, similar to the BMI, right? The body mass index, which is looking at your total body weight divided by your height squared. So it's like, how is your, let's say, weight distributed over a frame, your height, right, as an area. And so there's a thing called the fat-free mass index, and Wes, I'm sure you know about this, and probably a lot of your listeners do, but the fat-free mass index is saying, let's look at the mass that isn't fat, lean body mass, and let's look at that compared to height squared. And what's fascinating about this is BMI is not a very good predictor of health in a athletic population, people who are watching your stuff. BMI is basically meaningless, right? I've been morbidly obese by BMI forever, both when I was a fat little kid and then when I became athletic and then when I got big and then I got strong and at no point has my BMI been healthy, nor will it probably ever be, okay? Because I was very fat and then I went through this quick trough of like losing all the fat and then gaining all the muscle, and I immediately weighed too much again, right? So weight is not a sufficient predictor of health, especially in a population like Wellest will create. So even if you come into Wellest as a person who's overweight and undermuscled, the goal of using it will be to correct those two things, and so you'll go through that same journey I talked about. BMI may have been a decent predictor of total mortality when you came in, but not after a month or two of using Wellest, it won't be, okay? And so eventually you have to shift your thinking to body fat percentage, right? Leanness, which will show as literally six-pack, loss of cellulite for females, tone, people like to call it tone, right? But it's how do you get vascularity, right? How do you get the paper thin skin? How do you get those things, that's the leanness, the body fat percentage, right? And then the other part is how big am I, how strong, how capable. That is going to be a function of fat-free mass index, not just lean body mass, because it's how much muscle per your height, per your frame. Right. And so what's interesting there is that whatever makes you weigh a lot will ultimately lead to potentially hypertension, heart disease, those other things. And so as you mentioned, and I have to start thinking about this for myself too, is being big and strong and all that stuff, especially for a guy, is cool. That's, hyper masculine. I'm the biggest dude in the room or whatever. And it makes you feel capable and you can lift the heavy things and that kind of stuff is great. But at some point in your health life, you have to start thinking about, well, even if it means losing that lean body mass, right? Reducing FFMI, I may need to do that to pursue longevity, right? And so what we did within Wellest is we said, well, hey, here's the level of fat-free mass index. That is the Wellest zone. Chris brought that up, right? Where it's like, it reduces your risk of osteoporosis and sarcopenia by 2 standard deviations. Two, I think. So it's like, you're not going to get those issues of age-related incapability, right? Where you have to worry about my bones or my muscles falling, breaking a hip, as my grandmother did, my mom did, that kind of thing. So it means you're going to be more capable, right? Play with the grandkids, all that kind of stuff, longer into life and not suffer those other conditions. And then the leanness is lean enough that, again, we attack those other diseases. So, the Wellest zone, if you will, might not look the best. We're talking about looks versus being healthy and for longevity, right? We may find that people pursuing the Wellest zone will have better longevity while putting in less work, right? Eat more food, do less activity. And that doesn't mean be inactive. It means be prescribed less activity. And then you can take that free time to pursue whatever you want. You want to be an artist? Be an artist. You don't need to spend all your time doing fitness stuff. You want to be super fit and you want to pursue a goal like a marathon or, triathlon or something like that. Go nuts. But it's about, you don't need that to be healthy, but now you've created options for yourself. So anyhow, just some stuff about how that kind of interacts with the product, how I think it would apply to you in the short term. You can use it for a mass and not screw up, as you said, right? Because you're going to go through fasting, and what you're going to basically say, again, not something you can do in any other product, is you're going to say, I want my body fat percentage to maintain, but I want my lean body mass to go up. And you might even, as a more aged, learned, wise user, know that, hey, technically my rate of gaining lean body mass will be faster if I'm within a certain range of body fat. For a male, around 12 to 15% is generally the most efficient range of body fat, where you're getting good nutrient partitioning, but you're also not messing with your energy systems. You don't have the lethargy, the other things that come when you're like, oh, I'm 8% and my abs are showing like amazing, but now I'm not really as capable in the gym. Right. So there's a range. Mm-hmm. And then you also know that as you become more advanced in your training status, right, as you approach your genetic potential for lean body mass, it helps to be a little fatter even still. And so the product considers that. So if you're close to the edge of what's possible, based on our observation of your genetics, it'll actually let you be a little fatter too. So this kind of stuff, but no one knows that stuff, right? So the fact that the product can do that automatically for you can take you, like you said, I don't need a product like this when I'm massing. I know how to eat. I agree, that's true. But in terms of not spilling over and then spending more time on your cut, or in terms of being efficient in how much mass over what time, so that your training is most effective, I do think that there's some value in there. And then, like you said, traditionally for a cut, just having a tool that can help you be on your P's and Q's about managing your net energy balance, observing your deficit, knowing when you need to push the deficit and that kind of stuff to stay on the track that you want to be on. Again, the product's, super helpful coming in there for you. And then, like we said, eventually turning it into, okay, that's all well and good. Maintain forever. Focus on longevity. That's another way that you can use the product too to help you just maintain.
What are you guys using for the user to account for body fat, to measure that?
So there's, of course, many options of how people can do this. What we do, and there's goods and bads to it, okay, but I won't get into that. But what we do is you start off with the standard kind of demographic survey that anyone would do, right? And that's what we're talking about. It's like the height, weight, race, age, hormonal sex, that kind of stuff, right? And that gives us a baseline concept. But what we're talking about there is that's a demographic you. That's not you. That's not me. That's like, other, almost 40 white dudes, right, that weigh as much as I do. So there's a lot of variability in how healthy that person is. Hopefully I'm healthier than the average, but that first survey is demographics. Okay, so it's the average, the most average version of you on the planet. Then, to get the actual answer you talked about, is we use the U.S. Navy approximation method for this. And so you take a few measurements of your body. So it's, in addition to height and weight, you're taking measurements of your neck and waist for males. The reason being that neck is not highly dependent on overall weight. At the far extremes of body fat, the neck can actually, become fatter, of course. But in proportion, the waist is the best determination of body fat in a male because of, as you mentioned already, visceral fat. And the subcutaneous adipose is also generally targeted in the midsection, the trunk of males. And in females, they add to that the hip and buttock measurement. And the reason why is, if you think about, women out there, some of them are, let's say, more curvaceous in the upper half, right? And so they might be more likely to store excess fat in their core. And then other women, very bottom heavy, right? And so it's going there. And then there's a relative proportion of that across the population. And so we use this approximation method. And what's wonderful about it is, even if it is inaccurate to the real answer, and it's been shown to usually be within 1 or 2% of DEXA, which is basically the gold standard in the industry, right? So, okay, we're within 1 to 2% of the true number, as true as DEXA is anyway. But the wonderful thing is, a DEXA costs between $50 and $150. You're going to get one maybe every 3 months, and it's, an hour out of your time, and you got to find a place and go in and sit in the machine and all that stuff. That's not really enough frequency of data to make plans and iterate plans.
Yeah.
So what we do is, hey, every week we will prompt you to enter your new U.S. Navy measurements. Now, luckily, your neck is not a very fast-moving measurement, so you really don't need that. So basically what you're adding every week is, as a male, you're adding your waist measurement, and as a female, you're adding your waist and your hip. So 1 or 2 measurements per week give us a highly accurate, if not gold standard accurate, measurement of body fat that can be measured literally every day if you want, but easily once a week or every other week. And that is sufficient data to progress the program at a high level just to see if that body fat is moving.
Yeah, I remember doing that when I was testing the app, and I had actually just gotten a DEXA scan, and I told Chris, I was like, this is the exact number that I got. And I was digging into trying to figure out, why that is so accurate, why even get a DEXA scan if you can do that. But like you said, it's not 100% accurate, but it gets you a good approximation. And if you stay within that trend line, just like when people ask me about body fat scales, one of the top videos I have is that they don't really work. Like, you can use them for trend lines. It's, bioelectrical impedance goes through the bottom of your body. And if everyone's got fat stores differently, so people get different readings. But as long as it's got the right trend line, then it is something that is reliable. And for me, when I cut, I still use the scale, but I like to see the numbers trend downward. But I'm not going to say, my body fat is 11% because my scale says I'm 11%.
That's right. The better thing to do there, and honestly, this is roughly true of taking weight measurements, which we do prompt for every day. Now, you never have to enter it after the first time, by the way, but of course, hopefully your weight is changing, your body composition is changing, and you want to get credit for that, right? In the sense that the product gives you a different program, right? I mean, you literally get a new, it's different because you're changing. And if you want to stay on that most efficient curve of how your body is changing, the product needs that data. So we hope that people feel motivated to give the data. But even if you don't, it continues to function based on a set of your original measurements and that kind of stuff. So you can continue with that plan without putting in additional detail. But I would say generally something for people to know about Wellest is the more information you give it, the better it can do, right? So it's data hungry in the sense that everything you tell it, everything that you complete, incomplete, miss, everything you change, every ingredient, every recipe that you select, every activity that you use, all this stuff goes into a inference engine where the AI is basically learning about you and applies the right stuff for you better the next time around. Whether that's pre-selecting recipes that we think you're going to like based on ingredients that you've selected before, whether it's picking the right activity based on what activities you traditionally do at that time and at what intensity and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of value. Like I said, I didn't think we'd get into that today, but there's a lot of that kind of stuff in there where it's like, tell the thing more, it's going to do a better job.
And weight we know is highly variable. right? Especially if you don't take it at the same time of day, before or after a meal, before or after.
Yeah, you got to take a shit. You got to do it in the morning.
Yeah.
You got to do everything.
Exactly, right. If you don't get into the routine, so the more data points we have, the more we can hit that trend line. And we look at the trend line. We don't look at, because you're 2 pounds heavier today, we're going to drastically alter your plan for today. That's a lagging measure for us for sure. We look at the trend line. We look at the past week, 2 weeks, and use that folded in. So don't expect that, it's going to try and starve you because you had a quesadilla last night and you weigh a half pound heavier today.
Oh, right. It was. It's definitely.
I hope everyone listening takes that point away from what you said, which is, with a BIA scale, right? Withings and these other things that are out there, UFI and et cetera. Again, all wonderful products. I think they're bringing attention to a necessary topic. Having a scale that talks to you about body fat percentage so you can be aware of body fat percentage, I think is really good. And like you said, looking at a trend where you say, well, did it go down over time? Did it go up over time? But not being so obsessed with what is the number and somehow thinking that anything you're doing transiently is really helping that, right? And the reason I always talk about that is, BIA is extremely dependent, as you said, on electricity. Well, what makes electricity operate differently? Water, ions, meaning literally minerals. It's like, so the stuff in your food. So like when you eat more or less and for instance, like, oh, I ate something that was very, sodium rich and I'm retaining water today. Everyone knows that feeling of being bloated. They step on the scale, they weigh more. Well, guess what? There's similar things you can do to manipulate the BIA body fat. And so it's like, if I want my body fat percentage to be 10% higher by a BIA tomorrow or 10% lower, I can manipulate my food and activity today to create that. That is not sufficiently accurate data, even with trending, in my personal opinion, in our product opinion thus far, to use as the basis for wellness programs. So although I wish we could use it, we haven't yet figured out a way to transform what is, as you mentioned, a thing you can trend but is not accurate. Can I take that trend and somehow extract from the trend the data that we actually need? Because it's easier to step on the scale than it is to whip out the tape measure and do your couple of things. I understand that. I agree. I accept that. But we haven't yet found a way where we think we can be honest to the science with the technology. It's a thing we're always looking at, but BIA is it's a thorny subject for the moment.
Yeah, there isn't. And that always makes me wonder. There's two things, like the supplement industry and some of the like product development ethics, if you will, if that's even a real thing. I walk through Best Buy sometimes just to see like what other products are out there that could catch my eye to review. And I see these scales like the Withing scale or Garmin's got a scale and they're upwards, $150. My scale was a $20 Amazon no name, does the exact same thing as these products in terms of how accurate they are, yet they're out there marketing. And actually I got on the phone with Garmin one time and I've had numerous companies want to send me body fat scales to review. I should have kept them all to try to do like a side-by-side just to show you how BS
the comparative would have actually been a cool video,
I don't like... It sounds odd, but like for someone who does product reviews, I don't like having a lot of things. I constantly give things away or get rid of them. And I just don't understand how these companies can put products out there like these body fat scales to try to get customers to think that this is going to be an accurate measurement of their body fat at the like $150, $200. InBody's got at home ones that have been proven to be quite inaccurate in their upwards of like $300-$400. So
I was gonna say, and those are the best. They're the leaders, and it's a technology issue, right? It just falls victim to that. I'd actually like, if I can, I probably shouldn't, but I'll give a plug anyway. Amazon is actually catching some hell for their product, the Halo View, right? The Halo product that they've done. They caught a bunch of grief about this for different things that they did. There's a technology where it listens to you all day.
Oh yeah,
and judges your mood, which I'm like, okay, I don't care. I
don't
like
that,
but whatever. But like, I'm probably aging myself now, right? As a technologist, I'm like a friggin' Luddite now. I'm like, I don't want it listening to me, but whatever. But regardless of that, what they do, the one thing that they do, which I think is absolutely brilliant, and God bless them for doing this, is, although it's very uncomfortable and they're catching flack, is they ask you to take pictures of your body.
Oh yeah.
With little to no clothing on, and you submit those to their cloud. Ooh, why can't they do it local processing? Because they don't want to. They could, right? But you send those off. it stitches an image together and it extracts the measurements from that. What is that doing? It's doing the US Navy approximation method. But instead of taking a tape out and going 1, 2, and writing the number into Wellest, you take 3 or 4 photos and you upload them to Amazon's cloud and it does some data science stuff to it. That's brilliant. That's cool. It's honestly more work, harder, and requires $100, $200 device, and also sends naked photos of you to Amazon. But the point is that will actually have a chance as a technology of being sufficiently accurate to use. So like I said, I want to at least give them some kudos. We're talking about companies not doing things ethically. Amazon had a lot of ways they could have done that. Whoever over there, and I should know the person, but like whoever's leading that technology team for that piece, thank them for actually doing a nice job. And you should actually maybe review that product, because that would be cool to kind of get your take on it. But I just mean that, like, I just got mine this week. I haven't plugged it in yet, but
the only thing that bothers me about those, like another one, a company reached out, is Aura Ring.
Aura.
It's missing some. Oh, you have one? Yeah, it's missing some capabilities that like I need. With the Aura Ring, it's one thing. With it like tells you do not use this with a barbell. My favorite thing, like it tells you to take the ring off and use something like an Apple Watch. It's like, okay, so you want me to buy an Apple Watch and your Aura Ring and pay your monthly subscription? Okay, well that's one thing. With the Halo, it was clearly a knockoff. It was clearly a knockoff of the Whoop strap.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. Like, it is. They can talk about all the other stuff it does, okay, but it is for sleep, right? It's infinite battery life, right? It just goes forever. There's no screen. It's just like the Whoop, right? But because of its placement, because it's meant to be more fashion, honestly, it is not hardened, right? If you use this thing on a barbell, you would destroy it in like a workout, okay? So. But what it does, because of that, is it's very comfortable. Have it on your finger. Use it for sleep. I think their sleep tracking is great. What they just added with the new one is temperature data, right? And constant heart rate tracking.
That's what it has too.
So it's like I think they're kind of neck and neck in that way. And it's almost like do you want something more fashionable, or do you want something that's more fitness focused? And then also there's some price sensitivity, right? Because I think a Whoop strap is $150 and $50 a month. Is that right?
No, it's just 30.
Okay, but it's I think 150 purchase price and then 30.
No, there's no purchase price.
30.
Yeah.
Oh, you get it for free.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So and now the Aura is $300 up front, basically, depending on the model, and then you pay, I think it's like $3 a month or something like that, right? So it's kind of like who is back or front loading what. It's like ultimately they're both getting their money out of you, right? And so I do think it's a little bit of like they're very similar features, and it kind of who are you as the person buying it. I'm an Apple fanboy. I'm wearing an Apple Watch. That's sufficient for me because I'm not looking at the type of, although it has HRV, which is the primary statistic, the actual underlying science of what a Whoop strap does. And we can talk about HRV sometime, but like the focus of it is HRV and recovery, right? And the whole app and experience is tuned to that. So obviously much more of an athlete kind of focus. And the Aura Ring is honestly started as and continues to be really a sleep kind of focus. And then the Apple Watch is honestly not particularly great at either. It's a communications device.
Yeah, I love people behind Aura Ring. Peter Attia is a guy that I constantly listen to and trusts what he's doing, but he's an endurance athlete. He does long distance swimming and stuff. So it makes sense that he's going to put on a ring and not have a problem. He even talks about how he's not really lifting heavy ever and not really using barbells and stuff. So again, that makes sense. I
mean, he's probably using a rubberized handle dumbbell or something like that when he is lifting, because he doesn't need the weight where you even need a knurl.
Yeah, right? I would love
everything. One of the three of us is going to do in the gym is going to have a freaking knurl on it. You would destroy this ring in a second.
Yeah, and I would love to try it, and maybe I will at some point just to see how you can adapt it, because Aura did a really weird thing where they just endorsed Tia Claire Toomey, the top female CrossFitter. She's won the last 5 years. It doesn't make any sense that she would be someone that they'd go after when she's always using a barbell. So if you're trying to get complete data, 24/7 data integrated with everything else, that's what I don't understand. But maybe,
like I said, it's a full admission. She's got to be using a Garmin or she's got to be using something more focused on the athletic pursuit when she's being athletic. Mm-hmm. Like I said, so much of what her work is lifting heavy stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Aura really exploded in the sports arena. You guys keep me honest. I don't track on Aura. as well as some other things. But with the COVID thing happening, being able to monitor temperature, all of a sudden sports teams that were trying to get back in person were using it as, a proxy to kind of look at the precursor temperature change,
respiratory rate
change. Respiratory rate.
That was
Where
respiratory rate was the
it.
exact reason I got the Whoop strap. My ex was a pharmacist, and she was kind of a hypochondriac too, and so we had gotten tested. She tested negative. We both tested negative, and then a couple days later, she was like, "I'm not feeling well." I'm like, "We just got tested. It's probably not COVID." And then her respiratory rate jumped up too. And this is when I was only using an Apple Watch and really paying attention to my move rings. And she got tested again, and she was positive. I made a video. That video took off as far as like a review of the Whoop strap, or at least it's called Why I Ditched the Apple Watch for the Whoop strap. And they actually just reposted, Whoop just reposted it again. And that data, not trusting my body and having some humility on that end, because I don't fully feel all the underlying things, even though I think I'm more attuned to how I feel when I'm healthy, which is a reason why I had multiple doctors tell me my hangovers are worse. They're not really worse than the average person. I just feel like that because I know what my body is at 100%. Yeah. So the way I want to like wrap these episodes up, I am a tech channel. I like health. We're going to talk about what are the go-to products. You guys are both in the tech. You're both doing different things, staying healthy. You're in this realm. What are the things and the products that you guys love? It could be brands. It could be supplements, brands. It could be anything.
I think I can give you the short answer first. So my guess is that he and I are going to give polar opposite answers. We're on very different spectrums from my perception, so you can keep me honest on that. I've never been much of a supplement guy. I've taken creatine, and that's about it. I took beta-alanine once as I was trying to do the marathon stuff.
Oh,
man, that stuff makes you tingle. It's the weirdest feeling ever. Did not care for that.
Especially for running.
That was short-lived.
I love beta-alanine.
So I tried that one. So I don't do any of that stuff.
Didn't I tell you to try cluster dextrin?
No.
You don't remember that?
Which one?
Cluster dextrin. It's created mainly for Ironman athletes, like really long endurance athletes. It's a fast gastric emptying carbohydrate, so people drink it while they're running, and it just goes right through your body. You don't get any bloat or any sort of ill effects. It just runs right through you and gives you like straight energy.
Yeah, so when I got into that type of stuff, I was pretty layman. I didn't even get a sit. I've done the liquid IVs before during the summer because I'm a super heavy sweater. So just staying on top of like salts and stuff like that when I'm trying to run. But honestly, like when I go out for like a 4-hour bike ride, like I mix my own stuff. It's like fructose, glucose, and fasting salts, and like a squirt of Mio or something in there for flavor. And I just kind of have a mix that I know sits well on my stomach, and I know that keeps me fueled up, and I sort of go with it. And that's about it. Like on the supplement side, on the product side, I mean, I am not a bleeding edge adopter of anything. I got the Apple Watch 4. It's great because I do a ton of heart rate training. I recently got a Coros just because the battery life on the Apple Watch is long.
What is it?
Sorry? A Coros Pace 2, Coros watch.
COROS?
Yeah, COROS.
I don't think I've ever heard of that.
They've really kind of come on to compete with Garmin in that triathlete space, and they tout a ton of battery life. So these things last for forever. So for what I need,
the Garmin, like even the longest lived, Garmin barely makes it through the day, right? Through that training day.
Depending on what settings you have turned on and off. And the Coros, for the price point, has just a ton of features and a ton of battery life. So I've recently got that and started using that to get a little more data over a longer period, exercising, half Ironmans and those type of things, without having to worry about the battery dying. And then the only other thing that I use, the massage gun that you dragged me into kicking and screaming that you gave me, I thought I would never use it. I was 100% wrong. That thing is amazing. And I love after, like a long run, like feeling a little bit tight, don't even have to do it for more than a couple minutes just to like sort of like pound out the quads and the hams and like get them ready for the next day's workout. Love that thing. And then Hoka recovery sandals.
He got me on these. I was like,
this is
everyone that sees them hates them.
Take nothing else away from this.
Yeah.
Hoka recovery sandals.
Yeah.
It looks like you're a geriatric. They're about 2 inches of marshmallow foam.
Yeah.
But it's the most amazing thing after a 2 or 3 hour workout to be able to just walk around in these things. That is my live without it.
I got exposed to a competitor of the Hoka recovery sandals, UFOs. Have you seen those?
No, I will never look at anything else.
It's wrong.
I have eyes only for Hokas.
I love Hoka on a running shoes, but I needed sandals and I saw UFOs, and they're like a brand new brand coming on, and they're all about recovery, and they are so comfy. They feel, and I'm gonna say this, they feel like a better recovery sandal to me.
Okay, I mean, let's not get blasphemous over here.
Starting shit at the end of the podcast. Woo.
Just my honest.
You got me on these sandals too. I'll check out the other ones. I like these, but
that's it for me.
It's not. I want to say it's not like a lifelong love, but I do enjoy them.
I need to.
Mine are like
I
electric blue too. My wife can't stand them, but they're great.
I want to get you a Whoop strap, Chris, because I like just because.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, maybe.
We've talked about it.
Yeah.
He should try out all the cool stuff, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, just as far as recovery, and I mean, you're not sleeping a full night's rest when you guys are working and stuff, and on top of that, trying to do an Ironman. Yeah, that's crazy. At least it can give you a way to experiment to maximize your time awake or the little sleep you get, because it does track another thing that I love with sleep debt, which is a real thing. And you're able to make it up throughout the day because you do take little cat naps every now and then, right? Whether or not
occasionally. Yeah. I mean, I drink an unhealthy amount of coffee, like 2 pots a day.
Hell yeah.
We got to stay hydrated though. So
right, you got to keep that hydration.
I love coffee, and the fact that I'm working with the guy Devin. He's a young guy here in Austin. He's episode 2, and he owns a coffee company, and so I love his coffee, and I'm helping him promote his brand because it's just him. He's a one-man shop, and he's feeding me in coffee. That could be a problem. That's how I'm getting paid in coffee beans.
Check out that. That's the Never Rest stuff, right?
Yeah, stuff's so delicious. Yeah.
Wait, it's called Never Rest?
Yeah.
Yeah, I need it. Yeah, just for the brand name. Yeah. I gotta see like the logo and stuff. I bet it's brilliant. It's great. It's a killer name.
To the Whoop strap, I love data. So I'm sure I would love it. I'm a slow adopter, and so I'm sure once I had it, I would never take it off. I mean, not just because that's how you're supposed to use it, but like literally, I would fall in love with it. But just, I'm slow and steady. I'll get there eventually.
No, that's fine. Yeah. Some people are just minimalists. And speaking of Devin, who just did an Ironman, the guy who does Never Rest, he just bare minimum, little supplements and stuff. And that's how some people are. And that's perfectly fine. Because I would rather go less than more. And I've done that over the years, and that's what kind of sucks when supplement companies want to work with me, is that, listen, I only take a limited amount of stuff, so you can't really push me to like sell your college. Like, a lot of it's just going to be bullshit, because sometimes they'll say, hey, try this, and I'm like, okay, give me all the clinical studies of why I should take it. And it's, no, there are none. There's nothing proven. There's nothing, anything. Okay, that's the reason I don't take it in the first place. But anyway, Dave, how about you? What products are we looking at?
Well, so I didn't know how to take it quite at first when you asked. You want health specific?
Yeah.
So I mean, the stuff I use. So I do have latest gen Apple Watch. The battery life is a problem. I mean, they continue to prioritize other features. You need more battery life, so that's rough sledding. It kind of sucks for that. I mentioned earlier, like, even though I was there working at the time when the watch came out, and I was not involved in the first one much. It was, super ultra black, blah, blah, blah secret, right? But after it came out, I was very involved in a number of different projects for silicon displays, et cetera, batteries, power silicon, all kinds of stuff with the watches. So I kind of like know what the roadmap was and kind of where they're at in it now and that kind of stuff. And what I'll say is that when I first saw the leaks about it, this is before I even knew about it within the company, but when we were seeing the leaks, a lot of what they were showing for the watch was actually the health kit stuff, all of the things that it could measure or talk about or track or give you insights on and all of that stuff, right? And I think that they're still so much in the very beginning of that journey in terms of what they can deliver. And that's where more hyper-focused companies like Whoop, right, like Aura, have been able to do more with that. I don't know that Aura is giving me that much more than the Apple Watch is in terms of sleep tracking right now, but the way in which they've delivered it, the UX, the focus, those other things, it really has that. And that's where I think, again, the Apple Watch has HRV, but it's not tuned and delivered in an insight-driven way to do what Whoop does in those things. So
yeah, I used to use apps to measure HRV on the Apple Watch, and it wasn't a consistent timing thing like the Whoop does. So you could literally game the system, and you could artificially increase your HRV throughout the day and take measurements. So that's the thing. Now, I don't know if there's anything that you're familiar with. There are, my background being in patent law, I have researched and I have found different ways that Apple has explored through patents of expanding the battery. One was like a battery charging wrist strap. One was like an on the wrist charger. The Whoop is incredible with the fact that you can take the battery pack, slide it on top, even though it has multiple day battery life, and just go. So if you're going to be this all around communication device and you're going to have all these apps on it, at least put some on the wrist charging in some form or fashion. Maybe move the charging from the bottom to the side, like the Whoop strap. Like, that's what I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, we'll say there's a lot of reasons, all of them highly technical. But ultimately, I think it will come down to the ability to charge some or all devices at a distance. What does at a distance mean? I mean, at least like a half an inch, right? And so people think at a distance, it's like, oh, my house will charge my across the, alleyway. No, probably not. But like, so it's the amount of power over what distance can be delivered. And I think there's a lot of research, a lot of consortium work and that kind of stuff, and a lot of companies really interested in that, of which Apple is not a part of any of them. But I think that's kind of like, if you want to talk about that, the trend of that, I would say Apple, as well as everyone else, is looking for those technologies to eventually become the answer to these things, where you don't have to compromise the physical design of the device to give you the type of charging, battery life, and other performance characteristics that you're talking about. Because, ultimately Apple needed to have a device that has a screen on it, right? To deliver all of the type of content, applications, communications, and other things that it does. Whoop could add a voice assistant, right? Why it doesn't have Alexa already, I don't know, right? But like, it could have some of those things, but the problem is every one of those features, speakers, microphones, displays, cameras, like Facebook is rumored to try, and those types of things, it just all begins to sacrifice the battery life, and then you lose one of those key things that you want, which is all day, nay all week, nay all month type of battery life that you really want from a wearable. So
yeah, and I'm interested.
The answer to your question is, I think everyone wants it, but at the same time, also realize that Apple must want, and I'm not speaking this from my own experience, okay, so no one take me to court about it, but Apple must want the watch to become the phone to some extent, right? So that means the watch is significantly underpowered. It's undercapable compared to its actual mission of being the primary communications vehicle, right? So if it is to become that, it needs to grow in its feature set much more so than its battery life. See what I'm saying? The phone just now is getting to the point where it's got 2 days-ish of battery life with the new versions of 13s and 13 Pros that just come out, where they actually easily stretch into the second day, right? To give you the reducing that charging anxiety. But the phone is never going to have a week-long battery life. Why would it? It's your phone. It's on you all the time, right? And so I think similarly, the thought and the strategy there is to prioritize upping the feature set and bringing the watch more in line with a phone quality of device and capability. They have an app store and these other things, more so than is Apple going to be focused on give you 4-day battery life of a watch. I just don't think that's their mission, and they don't need to, because there's lots of great products out there, like we talked about, that are prioritizing those features, where honestly Whoop is never going to have an app ecosystem the size of Apple, right?
Yeah.
They'll never be able to make that product, and so really only Apple and Google and maybe Samsung or Microsoft, whatever, even have a chance at that class of device. And so I think they're going to specialize there, and you're going to continue to see that it's going to be a relatively poor again, I'm not trying to throw shade, but a relatively poor fitness wearable and device compared to what a Whoop, a Garmin, Polar, Coros, or a whatever would do.
Yeah, that has been my theory, and just from seeing trends and reading articles. But they always make fitness like a portion of their developers conference, and the other event. I don't even know the other name of the other. They just call it Apple event, the one like later in the year.
There's product releases, and then the thing in the summer is called WWDC, the Worldwide Developer Conference. That's in June. But yeah, everything else is just like product releases.
Yeah, it just seems like they make fitness a focus. And then even this year with the new Apple Watch, they re-showed that it has pulse ox and that it has ECG monitoring, which has been around for multiple models now, which kind of confused me, as if they're just...
Well, we could talk more about that. We could do a whole thing on that. But clearly what they released was probably not what they intended. And again, this is not inside information. I don't know this. I just mean when you observe the leaks and the trajectory of the product and stuff, it doesn't seem like what they released, because like you said, go watch the advertisements for it. It is a rehash, a retread of features that were new in the prior product. There's really nothing new except for the new ability for wireless charging to be faster, and the screen size and other screen capabilities. But that's it. I mean, really nothing else is truly new about it.
Which those are nice features to have. It's just when they make this grandiose like event as if they're releasing this huge new product, I think that's when people have expectations and then get let down when they see what the release is, and you break it down, you're like, oh, well, I'll just get last year's model.
Yeah, and the other thing that happens with this too is that because it was when you do something like a screen design or something big, physical, like a new charging design, right? The device, the physical design changes, almost required necessarily, right? And people, I think, have definitely come to expect that when Apple does a new ID, it's called, right, a new industrial design, not only are there new features, physical features, but that it gives them an opportunity to reinvent the category. And so I think when people said, whoa, they made it bigger, the screen's bigger, all this kind of stuff, what did they do to reinvent? Where is my 24/7, give me more data points on heart rate, right? Give me better HRV stats, give me more sleep, give me, basal temperature, right? Give me all these things that everyone else has plus more, right? People want them to lead, not just do what Whoop already delivered this year, but give me something more. Where's the gravy? Where's the extra sauce? And so I think so much of that's difficult is that people always want that reinvention from Apple. They want them to lead. This is a category that, let's say today, they're not leading in those ways and those features. What's difficult to throw shade at them for, we're here talking about health and fitness and that stuff, but we realize, of course, that they make more money on watches than the rest of the watch industry. They make more money on wearables than the rest of the wearables industry.
Yeah,
right?
I've seen that.
I was trying to tell my wife this. We were having a chat about something months ago, and I made some comment like I was like, that the rank and file, junior engineer working on the AirPods team might be worth more to the world economy than like the CEO of Netflix, because AirPods are worth so much money to the world in terms of like their market capitalization, the amount of money that it's worth that AirPods exist, right? That one person matters so much to the world economy. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah,
right?
I love...
It's easy to lose track of that when we talk about Apple and why did they prioritize the features they did, why did they talk about the ones that they did. What they're doing is, let's say the baseline of health wearable, Apple Watch is that. It's the baseline. So then these other products we're talking about do have to be better than that, because they got to be better than that baseline.
Yeah, I love, like, I'm an undercover watch. Like, I love watches. Like, I want to buy a Omega, the Moon watch, the Speedmaster, just from... I love NASA, I love space, and I love mechanical things. And I go on YouTube and I watch these watch connoisseurs talk about it. And it's amazing how Apple, when they came out with the Apple Watch, cut into the luxury watch market, because they had created something where people of higher class also would rather wear an Apple Watch than a Rolex, an Omega, or any of these other like higher end brands, which is just crazy to think about.
I mean, again, I think for me, it's because it's a communications device. But yeah, I wear my Apple Watch instead of my mechanical watch.
But it looks good, like
90% of the time.
Yeah, when you hold an Apple Watch, it feels substantial, and it ruined it because a lot of people think like, oh, the Whoop strap is cheap because it's very lightweight. When it's not at all the case, it's just that you have this other device that you're so used to. and it just feels good.
I mean, yeah, man, it's right tool for the right job. I mean, there's nothing wrong with both of them being what they are, but that's where I think it's so hard to find. It's going to be very challenging, maybe impossible, to have a one-size-fits-all in this category.
Oh, it's
You're
never.
gonna always have to wear two. You're going to have a mechanical watch and an Apple Watch. You're going to have a Whoop strap type of device, an Aura type of device, and an Apple Watch. Something for comms, something for fitness, something for whatever. So I don't know that I really see a path as a technologist for all of these things to kind of come together. Not in the short term, anyway.
No. People were looking for like a cohesive thing, like maybe Apple buying Whoop, but Whoop's evaluation is so high now that it would just, like, Apple would be more in the, it would be smarter for Apple to invest the $4.5 billion in their own infrastructure than go purchase something like Whoop, which I thought could have happened in the past.
I mean, look at what they did with Beats, right? It's the biggest acquisition they've ever done. And they left Beats in a weird place, right? It's semi-independent. It's semi-integrated. I think that Beats in some ways is better for it. And I think that Apple in some ways is better for it.
Yeah, they kind of compete against themselves.
Yeah, but I think what they're yes, absolutely. But look, when you own all of the competitors, you're not really competing. Right? Like, you have two options, Apple or something
that
else by
Apple.
Apple.
Such a capitalist
It's
dream.
funny how many people out there are saying, I've heard people tell me this all the time. I don't use Facebook. I don't like Facebook. Facebook sucks. I was like, oh, that's
but I'm on Instagram. I'm that guy.
I use Instagram, and I'm like, so you're just using Facebook? They're like, no, it's Instagram.
I can't escape the meta.
Owned by Facebook. So I think it is competition for each other, but I think in a way that, for instance, Android users are unlikely to embrace AirPods because it's Apple brand. Part of the identity of being an Android user is I'm not that. I'm not an Apple fanboy. And yet, insidiously, maybe, they're what are the best kind of consumer grade headphones? What has the best Bluetooth pairing experience? What has the best noise cancellation for the price point? What has these things? Beats. Because why? Because it's running Apple custom silicon, which is what the AirPods use, right? So that's what I'm saying. I think both are better for that. So is there a scenario where Apple says, we agree that these are going to remain, there's going to remain this kind of schism between these two product categories where AirPods were never going to win the entire market. So a Beats product makes a lot of sense to harmonize and synergize and let them apply technology to both and meet more needs, right? Is there a possibility for that to be the same sort of harmony you would see with like an Aura Ring or a Whoop strap or something like that? I'll say that I personally don't see it, but I think that, if you're a fan, you could imagine that that's possible. I don't see that particular tie-up. There is a rumor, recently stated rumor, that Apple is going to produce two different types of Apple Watches next year, where one is a Pro version and one is a non-Pro. And the belief is that the Pro doesn't mean Pro like a MacBook Pro, like I'm going to do video editing on it, but Pro meaning it's going to be a professional grade, ruggedized, significantly higher battery life, wearable focused on athletes. So there is already rumors of this happening next year. Again, I find a little unlikely. But like you said, there's a massive opportunity. When something starts being worth $5 billion, even an Apple starts to pay attention. So I think there's an opportunity and a possibility that you'll see it happen. I agree, probably not a tie-up, but if they wanted to do it, they'd probably just come and do it themselves.
Yeah.
So the question that started with was, what products do you use? 30 second rapid fire. What do you got for it?
No, it's fine.
Apple Watch or a Ring. On supplements, because we were talking about, I don't want to get into the supplement conversation really, but if you need a supplement, I particularly happen to love Now brands, Now Foods, like Now brands, out of like the Chicagoland area. I think price to quality, and it's available on Amazon, that kind of thing. So I think if you're going to get supplements, there's that. I would probably go there. There are other good brands, like kind of escalating from there. You've got your pure encapsulations and those types of products, and then ramping up into, assuming you can get the hookup for it, and you want medical grade supplementation, getting Metagenics products are brilliant. But again, I kind of agree with you guys on being a low supplement kind of person. Wellest tries to keep people low supplement by prescribing all of our recipes in whole foods, right? So you're going to be naturally getting that micronutrition, that sub-macronutrition, talking about all the essential amino acids, right? You don't need BCAAs or EAAs when you're getting it from your whole food, right? Why am I spending a bunch of money for easily digestible, easily spent
$3 billion a year? I don't
aminos,
know.
right? Like so. I mean, if you're a person that for some reason has to train fasted, I suppose it's better than being truly fasted. But throw down a whey protein shake and you just got the same thing for way less cost, and you didn't have the fullness effect of the other thing. So, anyway. So we definitely target a low supplementation kind of concept. I will, as an aside, say that the supplementation industry is, if not built on actual research, is built on its efficacy for performance-enhancing drug users, where if you're growing muscle at 10 times the normal genetically possible rate, you actually will spend all of your zinc, magnesium, calcium, name a thing, right? You will spend it in a rate that you can't physically consume with food. Ta-da, supplements. So not to say that it isn't effective, but for the average athlete, or
There's a lot of bullshit out there, though.
Working from home, people that we're all sedentary, doing COVID work from home, you probably don't need supplements. So anyway, but if you do need them, there's certain things you need. I'd say Now Food's a brand that I would love to support. And then that's about it for technology. I will throw some love to my entire, home gym, and if we ever build a Wellest gym, it will be like all Rogue equipment. Love that stuff. American.
I think the way I see companies, and it's funny because every time I talk to these fitness companies, everyone has this idea that they want to build a gym. And if you go to the First Form headquarters, their gym is immaculate. It's absolutely beautiful, and people want to go there and post. It's like free marketing and stuff. And I'm fully supportive. I think that'd be awesome too, and the employees get to use it too.
Yeah. So if we ever build a gym, it's going to be, custom teal plated.
I know. I figured that. I love your guys'. I love your colors.
I would just love to throw some love their way.
Yeah, I love your colors, and I love your guys' logo. So as far as being something easily marketable, I wear your hat. People ask what the logo is. I'll take a picture of it. I'll post it online. People love the little guy. It's little guy. It kind of reminds me. I just recently saw an episode of Game of Thrones of that family. I can't remember who they were. The skinned man. You know what I'm talking about? But
the skin man.
You know what I'm talking about? They had the flag. It was
not coming to me. I'm not sure I want to. Give the context.
Are the arms upraised on that one? I can't remember.
They're upside down. The guy's upside down.
Dangling.
Yeah.
Well, we're right side up.
Yeah.
I guess.
No, but
thank you for repping us.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Thanks for repping.
Appreciate the love. Thank you.
Well, I tell all these people in these startups, it's okay, if I like what you're doing, I'm just going to tell you I like it. If I don't like what you're doing, you're not going to hear from me. And if I really like what you're doing, I'm going to tell people all the time about it, which is what I do with your guys' product. So anyone I meet that they're using any sort of product, or if they're, having trouble with fat loss, people come to me and try to slide my DMs or reach out to me in YouTube comments and ask me about dietitian nutrition advice. That's not what I'm for. I refer to other people. So I'm going to be excited to refer people to your app to use it, to test it. And if by end of January you hit them up in their chat, get the lifetime subscription. And really appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy day. I've seen firsthand so much of Chris working weird hours, all hours, and I can only imagine that you're doing the exact same thing, especially with having a newborn. So any time that you guys can afford to me is completely awesome. You guys are badass.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're looking forward to having you on Wellest as well.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to when Wellest finally decides that Austin, Texas is going to be the new home. A lot of land, lot of land out here. A lot of fitness. Every time I turn around, I'm meeting someone with 200,000 followers in the fitness realm, or it just Eleiko, top company, just put their U.S. headquarters down here. We got Fringe Sport. It's just all of these. Oh yeah, you got the Eleiko Open College, didn't you?
Yeah.
I love those things.
They're badass.
Based on your review,
those are sweet.
That was a great
design, great use case. It surprised me how great they are. But overall, the community down here and stuff. And Chicago's a little cold right now. It's warm down here.
It's very cold, and I'm not feeling it. So I hear you on the Austin thing for sure. Yeah, honestly, dude, just knew we were going to have an awesome chat. Love your content and material. Love the candor. There's not enough people cutting through the bullshit in the industry, and so I think hopefully that your content, your channel, you and your personality continues to kind of like be the trend that we start to see as more people being real. So yeah, just super happy to support you. Thank you so much for the support and taking the time. And you can tell that you tried to end this conversation like 30 minutes ago.
Oh no, I did not. I didn't.
We will talk about this forever. The only thing we like more than building it is talking about it and trying to help people. So thank you so much for the opportunity, and we hope it's really helpful for you and for your audience.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Yep. See you guys.
Thanks, man.
Take care.
Bye.